second half of the season?
I think we'll get confidence and belief from it. We should do. We should, use this experience to grow and improve. We're still very young in terms of how long we've been together, but we also respect Celtic and the other people that are pushing high up in the league as well. It's a tough league. It's going to be a tough challenge, but the message from us is we're game for giving it the best we've got. We take one game at a time. We need to recover bodies now and try and get our full strength 11 and squad back. And then we get ready to go again come the end of January.
What have you said to your players after that one?
Just remember the level, remember the standard that you've shown today, because any team that certainly comes here, if we play to that level, will find it hard against us.
The chairman was over today. Will you have a word with him about what you need now to strengthen the squad going forward for this title battle?
I already have.
What has he said to you?
We're in discussions. It's not the time to be talking about targets or what we're going to do. I think tonight's about the chairman enjoying an Old Firm victory. I think he deserves that. It was one of the things he asked me to deliver when I sat down in front of him. So I'm just pleased for him. I'm pleased for the fans, and I'm pleased for my players, because the players are outstanding today.
Stephen Gerrard there, Rangers manager, speaking after his side beat Celtic 1-0 in this afternoon's Old Firm derby. I should say a very good afternoon as well to our YouTube, Facebook and Periscope viewers. You can leave a comment on the stream if you happen to be watching there. You can tweet us as well at Off The Ball, and anybody listening on the radio, you can text us using the text number 53106. So the big thing, lads, Kieran and Johnny, is that the Old Firm is back.
Yeah, I was just whatever about Sam Crow losing 4 races in a row would have been like $1 billion to 1, but whenever at this time of year, coming into the last day or two of the year, has there been 5 points between first and fourth in the SPL? It's incredible. And I know, certainly in the south of this country, Celtic are obviously the team that people would support in the Old Firm, but I think a lot of people would.
Quite a few in the north as well, Jim.
And in the north, obviously, but I think a lot of people will appreciate that there's an Old Firm again, and that the SPL isn't like the complete one-horse race that it had been home.
Yeah, because Kilmarnock are at home to St Mirren today, and if Kilmarnock win, they're only a point off Rangers and Celtic. Celtic do have a game in hand, but just looking at the highlights back, there was some very comprehensive Old Firm wins by Celtic the last few years. This could have been as comfortable for Rangers. They had 7 attempts on target. Celtic had only had 1, but the chances Rangers had were very strong. They were great chances. They really should have won that game by 3 or 4 goals. They were far, far better than Celtic on the day, which Celtic fans, a lot of them will be annoyed today, but if you look at the bigger picture, winning the league by 10, 15, 20 points every year, it's what's the point? It's a battle with your biggest rivals, taking it to the wire. That energises people. That's what you want, surely.
What does it do to Brendan Rodgers' reputation if Celtic don't win the Scottish Premiership?
Yeah, I think, he might be thinking he might be thinking last summer was the time to go, because he was pretty hot then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's still but I think because of what he did at Liverpool, what he did at Swansea, the trophies he has, I think he's contended for 7 trophies with Celtic, and he's won all 7. So, and you would still make Celtic favourites to win this again, but they haven't been anywhere like the force they were in Europe that they used to be. The results generally in Europe the last few years have been pretty disappointing. You go back to Neil Lennon's time when they beat Barcelona, they had at Parkhead, they were a real force, but most of the performances and results at Parkhead haven't been good now in the last while. So
he'd still get a very good job in the Premier League, I think.
He's well regarded.
Yeah, well liked. And has a great relationship among other coaches, and his style of football would be very, very appealing still to a lot of teams. But I think he'll probably be doing a bit of soul searching at the moment as to where his career is going. And
yeah, if he had Virgil van Dijk, he would have won the league with Liverpool. Now that one player would have made all the difference.
The guy who was just talking there, if he hadn't slipped, I mean, these are the really, really fine margins. I still think Rodgers got that game against Chelsea all wrong, because basically a draw would have done them fine, and they were far too gung-ho for my liking when they basically needed a point. But he's still a very good manager, and I'd say he could be back in England next season.
Yeah, you might be right. It'll be interesting to see just how high that standard is, because slowly the top of the Championship is melding into the bottom of the Premier League. You made a point earlier, Kieran, that the bottom 8 of the Premier League haven't been as weak, or certainly they haven't been as distant from the top 12 in the Premier League as we've seen this season. I did want to talk about Liverpool, because it is the big game this evening. They host Arsenal at 5:30 in the Premier League. This idea of a title race, myself and Chen were talking about it at the top of the show earlier on, that if this thing is a title race, and I suspect it will be, it's going to be the highest standard title race we've ever seen. Not in terms of the highest drama, like it's not going to be like Newcastle versus United or potentially Fergie versus Wenger, or even the dramatic Steven Gerrard slip or anything like that. But in terms of standard, in terms of defensive solidity, particularly from a Liverpool point of view, and potentially the attacking flair that if Manchester City get all their assets back working together, that this will just be absolutely glorious to watch.
Yeah, no, you could make that argument definitely. Like most of the best managers in the world are working in England now, and a fair amount of the best players. You look at Real Madrid now and Bayern, and they've aging squads. Juventus, are signing Ronaldo in his mid-30s. A lot of those, because of the money and offer, a lot of the better players are now in English football. So I think it will be high quality. I think it'll be a race that could change very quickly. Like I could see Liverpool drawing with Arsenal today and losing to City. So suddenly the picture in the space of 5-6 days changes dramatically, just as it did with the back-to-back City defeats. If Liverpool get decent results today and next Thursday, you look around the Bayern Munich games, sandwiched around those two are trips to Goodison Park for Merseyside Derby and Old Trafford to play United. And those are two really tricky trips, so I wouldn't say... Like if Liverpool do get big, if Liverpool win today and they win on Thursday, I think they'll win the league.
Yeah,
I'd be pretty confident they win the league. But if the door's kept open for City after this week, I think it'll go to the wire.
Like the big test for any team like this is when the idea of invincibility is taken away from them. When Liverpool do suffer that defeat, how will they react? But I suspect they will react quite well.
It wasn't Liverpool that were deemed invincible, it was Manchester City. Like Liverpool are still fifth favourites for the Champions League, despite the fact that they're clearly one of the outstanding teams in Europe. And Manchester City are favourites of the Champions League, but the four English teams qualified, and I think that's very important in terms of where the English game is at the moment. And you have to remember, Man United have been so far below their actual talent in that team this season. Now we're beginning to see what they actually can produce. So they're kind of going to become a team nobody really wants to play now all of a sudden. And the thing about Liverpool, I think, is they've real characters in that team. I was in the show here last Saturday and a few guys were texting in about Liverpool are going to bottle it again. Like, that's not going to happen. With Alisson there, with Van Dijk there, with Milner there, with just the spine of that team.
Yeah, like if they fall short, it won't be because of a lack of bottle. It's just because City put up an incredible points tally and they just fallen short.
But without Fernandinho, like Man City in that game against Crystal Palace, which we watched here on the show last Saturday, they were poor. They'd never looked in control of the game, even at 1-0. They kind of they huffed and they puffed, but like actually didn't create many chances. And they do look vulnerable. They don't look. I think without Fernandinho, they certainly look vulnerable. The main positive for them is De Bruyne is back now, and I think they need to beat Liverpool. I really do. I think a draw isn't going to be enough. I can't see Liverpool dropping that many points between now and the end of the season. And the whole thing with Liverpool is just keeping Van Dijk fit. I think he is the most indispensable player in the team.
Yeah, like, it's interesting when you go back the last few titles Guardiola's won. They won last season by 19. The three before that, 2 at Bayern and 1 at Real, were won by 19 as well, and 2 by 10 points. They've won them all comfortably. The last time they were in a title race, they lost to Real Madrid by 4 points when Real got a records tally. So he's used to being a procession in a way. He's not used to... It's been a while since he had this kind of pressure. And even the way the dynamic changed the last few weeks, week after week, Liverpool were playing the day after City. So the pressure was in Liverpool because City were winning on the Saturday. Liverpool had to match it or to stay in contention. But the fixture list kind of twisted things around the last few weeks. That City were coming in the day after Liverpool. Like last week, Liverpool won on the Friday night against Wolves, and City had to come in the next day against Palace and they fell short. So I think that they're only human, and I think that all those things impact when you are in a race like this.
We're halfway, right? So if Liverpool mirror their first half and the second half, how many points do they end up with? 102. And that would be quite incredible. And I think Klopp has actually spoken about this. Man City obviously had the record last season, but there is a realistic chance that Liverpool will get to 3 figures in terms of points, and they still, even with that, probably won't win the league by very much.
Just on your Pep point, Kieran, because it's interesting that you say it. Like I saw Miguel Delaney make a point in one of his recent match reports. It was the Chelsea match, which they lost, that in these games, quite often Manchester City get confused by their own brilliance, that they're playing so bloody well. They killed Chelsea in the opening half an hour of that game, and they forgot that the score was still 0-0, and Chelsea score, and then suddenly everything is different. I do wonder if that's kind of a more minute manifestation of the point you're trying to make, that perhaps the brilliance, they get carried away by their brilliance, and when they are good, they're so good. They're some of the best football teams you've ever seen. But then suddenly they realise we're in a title race here, and we haven't been accustomed to this at all. And
when you get so much praise as well, you wonder, does it ever seep in? Because there's so much stuff out there about the way Guardiola operates, about the way how City work, about the work he's done there, how he's improved players, etc. And you even go back last season. Remember the game they lost to United when they wanted to seal the title, and they were all over them in the first half. But the game, there was still a chink of light for United, and United ended up winning the game. So. I would always doubt City a bit because of the Champions League. You know, what we've seen from them in the last couple of years, particularly against Liverpool, when Liverpool were nowhere near the level they're at this year. You know, particularly defensively, and they just blew them away on both legs. They won both legs, you know, and they beat them. You know, the way they blitzed them at Anfield, like a late flurry in the Premier League last season, a late flurry put City back in touch, but there was a 20-minute period there where Liverpool got a couple of goals and they missed 3 sitters. Like, they were just streaming through. Like, I think Fernandinho's absence has been a factor, but you've seen some of the defenders look particularly very exposed as well. Like Fabian Delph just is a fish out of water in there when he's picked it in defence. And Ederson as well, his distribution gives them a different dimension, but I don't see him making the saves that a top-class goalkeeper you would expect him to make. You don't see them making them that often. Like, a lot of the goals in the bigger games they've lost, if you go through a few of them, you're going, could he have done better in it?
The thing about Liverpool as well is I genuinely don't think they've actually hit top form yet this season. I think
Klopp saying that yesterday was interesting. He said that. So
well, like, if you look at Firmino and Mane, how would you rate their season so far? Maybe a 7 at best. Like, Salah is now hitting form, but like for the first couple of months wasn't.
That's because of the Firmino repositioning.
Yeah, it is. Like, and in fairness to Firmino, that hasn't probably suited him in many ways. But like, if this word about momentum, remember the form they were in when they beat Man City at Anfield last season. That, like, they were blistering,
electric,
they're absolutely electric. I don't think they've hit that form yet, and when they do, you know, it's quite frightening. But I was saying to Kieran, looking at the odds today, they're 9-4 on at home to Arsenal today. There's been so much money for them. I think that's a reflection that Arsenal have defensive issues, but there's so much faith in this Liverpool team, and that's probably as short as they've ever been at home to Arsenal.
Yeah, for sure. There's been a goal at Wembley. Harry Kane has scored it, and Spurs have gone 1-0 up against Wolves. We'll bring you the story of that goal in just a moment. To go around to the other grounds, let's start with Vicarage Road. Watford are up against Newcastle. Andrew Cheal has got the update.
Watford 0, Newcastle 0. Decent start for Watford, looking comfortable on the ball, confident on the ball as well. Domingos Quina showing some neat skills in midfield. One half chance for Watford. Isaac Success with a quick dash down the left and a low cross almost sliced into his own net by Paul Dummett, but it flew away for a corner. Daryl Janmaat playing for Watford this afternoon, an ex-Newcastle player, of course, is being well and truly verbally abused by the visiting fans, and he's taking it like a man. Watford 0, Newcastle 0.
Let's go to Craven Cottage. It is Fulham against Huddersfield, and Nigel Bidmead is watching it.
Fulham 0, Huddersfield 0. The only chance of the game so far coming in the 9th minute. Philip Billing driving a shot in from 25 yards. Too hot for Sergio Rico to handle, but there was an infringement before the players following up could reach the ball. Huddersfield on top. They've had most of the possession and most of the territory. Fulham, even though they're the home team, they're playing on the counter-attack. Fulham 0, Huddersfield 0.
Let's go to Leicester. They're up against Cardiff, and Derek Clark is watching this one.
Leicester City 0, Cardiff City 0. The Foxes have had 2 opportunities to open the deadlock, though. The first was almost an own goal from Greg Cunningham, the Cardiff backline. It was a ball played in by Damari Gray towards Mark Albright, and it was intercepted by Cunningham, and it just went wide of Neil Etheridge's right hand post. And then Maddison just had an effort from around 20 yards out. He picked the ball up just on the halfway line, drove forward and fired a stunning strike towards goal, but the keeper did well to tip away. It's Leicester 0, Cardiff 0.
Will we be been speaking about forwards that are hitting form at just the right time. Let's go to Wembley and hear about this goal that has put Spurs 1-0 up against Wolves.
Spurs 1, Wolves 0. Fabulous strike from Harry Kane. He was surrounded by 4 players. He was about 30 yards out. He looked up and sent a wicked dipping left foot shot into the top corner, curling into the top corner, giving the poor Wolves keeper absolutely no chance. Spurs 1, Wolves 0.
And one last update to bring you. Let's go to the Amex Stadium. Brighton and Hove Albion are playing Everton, and Richard Newman's got the update.
Brighton and Hove Albion 0, Everton 0. The hosts have looked the better side earlier on, and they've had the best chance of the game too. Jordan Pickford did well to save from Florian Andone inside the 6-yard box. From the rebound, Jurgen Locardia's shot was well blocked. Albion looking threatening, but Everton have had a decent opportunity of their own. Michael Keane heading wide unmarked. The visitors yet to get going in a game in which they become the first English club to play 4,500 top-flight matches. Brighton 0, Everton 0.
Kieran, you and I briefly mentioned the Spurs title challenge a little bit earlier on. Johnny, what's your take? Is it a bubble to you, this thing that's going to burst? Like everybody's holding up the example of Heung-min Son being their best player so far this season, and he's off to the Asian Cup next week.
That's not good. Yeah, he's a really good player, and they did miss him earlier on in the season. They're probably extremely reliant on Kane. I don't think what's the gap now? 5-6 points to Liverpool. I don't think they'll sustain a challenge, but you know you got to give it to Pochettino. They're a very good side. I think if Kane gets injured, they're probably screwed. And Son Heung-min is the key, I think, to that team. But for them to bridge the gap on Liverpool is probably asking a bit too much. They have a realistic chance of coming second, I think. Like City could slightly derail if they lose to Liverpool.
Yeah, the January will be interesting for Spurs because they did sign Lucas Moura last January, you know, so they have done business in that window before, and obviously after not doing it last summer, I think there's more pressure on them to do it this time. And there were players they wanted, like they were very keen on Jack Grealish last summer, and they couldn't agree a fee with Aston Villa, and also with the Pochettino situation. I think if they do really want to hold on to him, will the owners be thinking, you know, God, we're in a good position.
I think that's definitely true.
We have to loosen the purse strings. Go to him, okay, you're 50-60 million in January. So, because I can imagine being very frustrated if he's in this position, he's told in January he can't spend money.
Yeah. What's your take on the whole potential Gareth Bale from Maurizio Pochettino swap? Like, I'm sure it's pure gossip, but it is kind of a salacious one almost.
Gareth Bale going to for Pochettino to go to Real Madrid
for a manager, and plus whatever compensation is due.
I think he'd be mad to go to Real Madrid because it's a revolving door.
Yeah,
you know.
I think he appreciates that as well. Like he seems a very kind of stable character who appreciates what's going on at Spurs. They have a good relationship there. Does he want to go down that road and inevitably get sacked? You know, at some stage, you know, I wouldn't think so.
A couple of comments in. Oren Leash has texted in to say, I do think Liverpool will absolutely bottle it. Alisson, Lovin, seriously overrated. City will win by 8 points plus. And hey lads, do you not think ye, along with everyone else, is falling into the same trap as Liverpool fans every time they are challenging for a trophy and getting carried away? They are only 6 points clear with half the season gone, and you're talking about them getting over 100 points and being untouchable already. It sounds all too familiar. At the end of the day, they haven't won a trophy in recent times, and I think people are getting carried away, as always, with Liverpool. That is the one stick that's going to be beaten, that is going to be used to beat Jurgen Klopp with time and time and time again. It is winning of the trophy. It is it is possible to appreciate what a manager has done in terms of bringing a club forward without actually having that piece of silverware to market with.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, from a Jurgen Klopp perspective, the detractors will always have that.
Well, they got to a Champions League final last year, and basically we all know what happened there. Nobody cares about League Cups or FA Cups. It's the Champions League or the league.
Yeah.
I think Liverpool fans want to win the league more than anything at this stage. It's been a long, long wait. There's absolutely no chance of this team bottling it, as far as I'm concerned. They're very
chance.
No, they're not going to bottle it. It'll just be if maybe injuries happen to them, or, you know, maybe if Alisson gets injured, if Van Dijk got injured, maybe if Salah got injured, something like that. But mentally, they're a really, really strong team. I've no issue with that at all.
Yeah, like I would go along with what Johnny's saying there, because they haven't had many proper title challenges since they last won it in 1990. But when you look at the two strongest ones they had under Brendan Rodgers, I don't think they bottled that. I think, you know, they miscalculated, as Johnny said, the Chelsea game. They were too gung-ho.
And they were taking on Mourinho as well. That was
they got under the skin.
It fell into a trap.
The spectacular nature of the slip.
Yeah.
What is a bottling of that?
Yeah, but that's the thing about that. But it wasn't even
Steven Gerrard's slip, but there was literally nobody behind him.
Yeah.
He was the last man.
It wasn't just a slip. It was a miscontrol and then a slip. Like he miscontrolled the ball and a slip. But Jamie Carragher pointed this out a few weeks ago. He said Alisson would probably have saved that. You know, the goalkeeper wasn't good enough as well. You know, that was a simple fact that they had players in that team. Like they conceded, I think they conceded 50 goals that season. So it's not that they bottled it, they just weren't good enough.
They've conceded 7 this season.
Yeah.
And I think Alisson, the confidence that he inculcates in his other players around him, just being on the ball, and even just that save he made against Napoli, players they see this towering figure that like they can take so much belief from.
Yeah.
And in the fine margins of the Premier League, you're probably not going to get away with a pretty bang average goalkeeper, which they had.
But the other one where they came closest to winning the league was 10 years ago when Torres was flying and Gerrard played off him on the left, and you had Alonso and Mascherano in central midfield. But they won 12 of their last 15 games, and they put up their highest points tally in the history of the Premier League, but they were 4 behind United, because United just an incredible team. Like, it's not bottling, it's just sometimes there's just a better team out there, and City are an outstanding team who will probably get at least 95 points. So Liverpool will have to get 7-8 points more than they've ever got in the history of the club.
Yeah.
So that's not bottling. Like, it's just
you look at that game against Everton as well. Like how important that goal is. Like, and you know, you're talking about small margins. That was one of the most ridiculous goals that will ever be scored in the Premier League on so many levels.
Yeah.
And if they didn't win that game, people would have said they were out of the title race.
Yeah.
And now they're 5 points. They're 6 points.
Like, if they do see it out, and to be honest, I would still think still think City will win it. You know, I just have more confidence in City because they've more pedigree. You know, they're just more convincing, and I think they've a stronger squad. But you would look at moments like if Liverpool do triumph, like the Origi goal, Mahrez missing the penalty at Anfield.
That was a game they should have lost.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, Chelsea getting Sturridge getting the late equaliser against Chelsea, and the other one was away to Tottenham. They played really well. They were much better than Tottenham, and they were 2-0 up. But they conceded they gave up a late goal, and just at the end there was a blatant penalty Spurs should have got.
Yeah.
So they got those breaks, and champion teams always get those breaks. You know, end up having. And the other one is Mo Salah. Like Mo Salah might a different jury might well have, or disciplinary panel might well have suspended Salah for today and for the City games. So you do need those breaks as well, and if they do make it, you'll be looking back at those breaks as being significant.
And in the Champions League, like Napoli 100% should have scored right at the death. It was a shocker of a
Well, Liverpool should have been 4-0 up as well.
But at the same time, Lovren was very, very poor, and Alisson admittedly spread himself well, but that should be a goal and should be out of the Champions League.
Yeah.
So
you'd almost say they've got a better chance of ending their Premier League drought if they were out of the Champions League.
It's debatable. There is a nice gap to the next game, but I don't see it as much of an issue, and I think they do have a bit of depth in the squad as well. And in fairness to Klopp teams, whatever he does, they're extremely fit. Yeah. Like they will keep going. Like
well, that's the main reason why they're stronger contenders than in any other season, because I was saying to you earlier, Owen, like last year they're bringing up front their substitutes where Dominic Solanke had never scored, and Danny Ings only scored 3 goals in three years, and now you've got Shaqiri who's scoring regularly. Sturridge can score. Origi scored that goal. You go back to Champions League final, they brought on Emre Can who'd been injured, been out quite a while. Adam Lallana had been injured basically for 6 months. He was brought on. That there was no depth there.
No.
But now you have
getting rid of Can was a good move.
Yeah,
it was a good move.
But now, for all the they've had a brilliant defensive record, but it's not like they've had a settled defence. Like Matip's been injured, Gomez has been injured, Alexander Arnold's been injured,
there's been one
Lovren's been injured. You know, Van Dijk is the constant who's got, and Andy Robertson is very important as well.
Are they like, okay, so I think we've all accepted over the past couple of weeks that Virgil van Dijk is the best defender in Europe, but it now seems that they're simply the best defence in Europe. That if you could have any back five, goalkeeper and back four, like whatever it's going to be.
I think half the season's gone.
Yeah, I know.
I think it's premature to say that.
On 7 goals conceded, it's not bad.
It's not bad, but like you would look at Juventus of strong, Atletico Madrid, like they always have had very strong defences.
I think they deserve a lot of credit on, because Liverpool are not a team that completely dominate the ball like say Man City do. So the defence does have work to do.
No, for sure. We do want to bring you the story of the second goal of the day. We've already brought you the story of Spurs going 1-0 up against Wolves. This has happened at Vicarage Road. It's Watford against Newcastle United. Here's Andrew Cheal.
Watford 0, Newcastle 1 against the run of play, but a really smashing goal it is. Atsu started it in midfield, fed Ritchie down the left-hand side, a classic left-foot far-put cross and a classic far-post header using his strength and aerial ability from Salomon Rondon, recalled to the side today, and he's made the difference. It's Watford 0, Newcastle 1.
And let's get a quick update from Leicester against Cardiff City. Here's Derek Clark.
Leicester City 0, Cardiff City 0, but the Foxes are really banging on the door now. Ricardo had a great chance. He pulled inside onto his left foot, just outside the area, fired towards goal. Neil Etheridge did well to tip the ball away, and the Cardiff goalkeeper also had to be alert to a James Maddison curling free kick again from around 20 yards out, right-footed. He did well to punch that one clear. It's Leicester 0, Cardiff 0.
Just over half an hour played as well between Spurs and Wolves at Wembley. Here's Guy Swindles.
Spurs 1, Wolves 0. A fabulous effort from Harry Kane means that the home side are leading here. Wolves, though, giving as good as they get in this match so far. Certainly they've had a couple of half chances that have come about from corners, but really it's the quality of Spurs that's separating these sides. Kane's wonderful effort on the day he was announced that he'd won an MBE to curl the ball in to the top corner from some 30 yards is some way to celebrate. Eriksson has also had another wonderful effort, even better saved, and it's Spurs 1, Wolves 0.
Let's go see what's happening between Brighton and Everton at the Amex Stadium. Here's Richard Newman.
Brighton and her Albion 0, Everton 0. After a tight first half hour or so, the game started to come to life, and so have the visitors. Almost a nightmare for Albion goalkeeper David Button, making his Premier League debut. He failed to deal with a cross into the box, then couldn't gather the ball. It fell to Richarlison, whose effort was blocked on the line by Shane Duffy before the offside flag went up. But moments later, Button redeemed himself. Richarlison burst into the box from a tight angle. He fired towards goal, and Button palmed the ball away. It's goalless at the Amex.
It's a game between Brighton and Everton, still scoreless, and it's Fulham 0, Huddersfield Town 0, Leicester City 0, Cardiff City 0, while Spurs are 1-0 up at home to Wolverhampton Wanderers, and Newcastle United are 1-0 up away to Watford. We are going to chat Ireland and our wish list for 2019 next.
Off the Ball on News Talk. The Pat Kenny Show.
I often wonder about these kids who've double-barrel names. You know, you're called Ferguson Maloney, and then you marry someone who's called O'Brien Murphy. Yeah. Does the subsequent child get called Daphne Ferguson O'Brien Maloney
and so
Murphy?
on ad infinitum? So that's why you need the 64-page passport.
The Pat Kenny Show
with MasterCard.
Weekdays at 9 a.m. on News Talk.
The Ryanair seat sale is here. Time to book your next holiday getaway from only $19.99. Visit Ryanair.com and choose from over 200 amazing destinations. Ryanair, low fares made simple. Limited availability. See Ryanair.com.
Samsung American fridge freezers are packed with brilliant technology, from total no frost to on-demand filtered water and crushed ice at the touch of a button. For more information, go online to powercity.ie.
I'm Alex Dunn from Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders. I have just returned from Yemen, where conflict has torn the country apart. It's also decimated the health system, leaving many in urgent need of care. MSF is treating the wounded and fighting disease on both sides of the front line. But we need your help. Please make an urgent donation today. Free phone 1-800-905-509. That's 1-800-905-509. Or visit msf.ie. Thank you.
If you're an Irish passport holder, the new online passport renewal service is the fastest, easiest and safest way to renew your family's passports from anywhere in the world. The application process is simple, and at just €75 for adults and €25 for children including postage, it's far and away the cheapest way to renew your passport. So save time and renew online. Check in today at dfa.ie/passport online, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Beacon South Quarter, Ireland's premier interiors destination, invite you to our winter sale. Visit Beau Concept, Soul, the Spirit of Ultimate Lifestyle, Roche Bobois, Caligaris at Cube and Mindy Brown's. View our offers on beaconsouthquarter.ie and follow us on Facebook for updates. We're located beside exit 13 off the M50 with 2 hours free parking.
Feeling panicky? Experiencing regular night sweats? Find yourself picturing the inside of your fridge? You could be suffering FOMO, fear of missing out on milk. It can affect anyone, at any time, leading to bouts of dry breakfast cereal, tasteless tea and bitter black coffee.
Overcome FOMO with mymilkman.ie and never miss out on milk again. Sign up online and wake up to fresh Avonmore milk delivered by your local milkman. mymilkman.ie. Fresh milk is just a click away.
FOMO symptoms also include checking shop closing times and mild swearing.
The great winter sale is now on at Cube. There's up to 20% off our entire range of living and dining room furniture, and that's including just about the best Caligaris collection you'll find anywhere outside Italy. From design classics to the latest 2019 ranges, it's all in the sale. You'll find more great Cube discounts on sofas. Choose from specially selected stunning fabrics not available anywhere else. Luxury has never been so affordable. See us in-store at Balbriggan and Sandyford or visit cubekitchens.ie.
Bargain Town's biggest ever sale has started with fantastic bargains in every department. The Bargain Town sale has started.
At Centra, we have all you need to celebrate the new year. Like Centra's strip loin steak 2-pack was €8, now €6. Centra's selected party food range, 2 for €6 or €4 each. And our star offer until Monday, Champagne Pierre Darcy's Brut was €20, now €15. Centra, live every day. Enjoy cost sensibly.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
You're very welcome back. So just the 2 goals to tell you about so far in the Premier League games this afternoon. Tottenham Hotspur are 1-0 up at home to Wolves at the moment. Harry Kane with the goal, and Newcastle are 1-0 up at Watford at the moment. 40 minutes gone in all the Premier League games. It's scoreless between Leicester and Cardiff, between Fulham and Huddersfield, and between Brighton and Everton. Liverpool against Arsenal is the big game of the day. It kicks off at 5:30 at Anfield. In the Championship, it's scoreless between Birmingham City and Brentford. It's also scoreless between Bolton Wanderers and Stoke, and it's Bristol City 0, Rotherham United 0. Hull City have gone 1-0 up away to Leeds United. Middlesbrough 1-0 up at home to Ipswich Town, and Millwall are leading by the same scoreline at home to Forest. Norwich City are 2-1 up at home to Derby County, while it's Preston North End 0, Aston Villa 0, QPR 0, Reading 0, and it's also scoreless between Sheffield United and Blackburn Rovers. The other 2 games taking place at the moment are between Swansea and Wigan Athletic. Wigan winning 2-0 at the Liberty Stadium at the moment, while West Brom are 1-0 down at home to Sheffield Wednesday. And in the Scottish Premiership, it's Dundee 0, St Johnstone 1, Hamilton Academical 1, Motherwell 1, Kilmarnock 2, St Mirren 1, and it's scoreless between Livingston and Aberdeen. The early game saw Rangers beat Celtic 1-0 in the Old Firm, and then the Edinburgh derby is at 5:30. It's between Hibs and Hearts, and that is pretty much you up to speed on all the football that's going on at the moment. We do want to turn our attention now to matters of an international level, but I guess it kind of kicked off from a club level this week. Declan Rice playing unbelievably against Southampton for West Ham this week, signing a new contract to the year 2024. The fact that people are looking ahead to the year 2024 is absolute madness, but worse than all of that.
What will the weather be like then?
Well, if the planet lasts until 2024, we'll be doing very, very well. So he signed that contract, but as I was about to say, worse than all of this has been the fact that notable English pundits have and Welsh pundits have started putting their hands up and saying this guy is pretty good. He's actually way too good to play for Ireland. And on beIN Sports this week, Paul Robinson was alongside Ian Rush, and they had their say on Declan Rice.
Doesn't make rash challenges, times his challenges, and he's a modern day player. He keeps the ball and he can play centre half. I think probably as his career progresses, he'll find himself playing at a centre half role. But he's a product of the Chelsea academy. Gone to West Ham, he's playing more and more regular football. He only made his debut in 2017, but he's becoming a regular feature in this side, and he's becoming a key player as well because he's giving them a little bit more security to allow the others a little bit more freedom to go forward.
It says a lot about his quality that 2 international managers are vying for him to declare for England or Ireland right now.
Yeah, he's a ball player. You know, he reminds me a bit like Stones. You know, when he's at Everton and all, he's gone to Manchester City, paid big money for him. I think Rice is most probably a better player. You know, at the age and all that, and I think he'll play international, whether it's for England or Ireland. You know, it's up to him to decide. But he's come on a lot.
Is he a centre back or is he a centre midfielder?
For me, centre back. You know, I don't know. For me, he's a centre back. I can play the older midfield role as well. But to be at his best, for me, a ball playing centre back.
I think because of the problems that Manuel Pellegrini's got and his absentees through injuries, suspensions, illnesses, etc., he's been forced into a formation, he's been forced into playing a certain system. But Declan Rice shows his versatility to be able to play there because he's got the ability to defend, but he's also got the ability to retain possession, to keep possession. He breaks the play up and he keeps the possession for his team. He's a really talented young player.
Which is the easier route into the England team? As a centre-back or defensive midfielder? Centre midfielder?
There's no easy route into the England team. You've got to be a top player.
Do you have to be a top player to make the Ireland team then right now?
Well, I think with McCarthy, I think they're looking to progress. And Ireland, what they've achieved the last 2 years has not been great. So if he wants if gets an early cap, you'd have to say Ireland, because he'd walk into the Ireland team. Maybe wouldn't walk into the England team. But it depends up to him. Does he want to think now, or does he want to think for the future?
Good to hear Ireland getting ripped apart on beIN Sports. Nothing like it over the Christmas period.
He was quite kind to us, really, there. Ian Rush said we weren't great the last couple of years.
Ian Rush and Paul Robinson there speaking about Declan Rice. Another report this morning, John Fallon, saying that we're no longer confident in landing Declan Rice.
Yeah, because there's been a lot of toing and froing with different reports. I think it's only just a few days before Christmas that there seemed to be a perception that it was very close to an announcement that he was committing to Ireland, and now John Fallon would be quite well connected in both Irish football and across the water, and he's writing in Irish Independent today that England is very much part of the picture. I've always thought that because he's just of his quality. Like, I can't remember when Ireland last got a player of his quality through the ancestry rule. I think you're going back to maybe Andy Townsend. Now, because there's not, I think he's going to be a superb footballer. Like at 19, he's played over 50. He's played 50 games for West Ham. He looks so composed and calm and intelligent on and off the ball. He looks a real leader. Like, that's why I can see people talking about, like Mick McCarthy talked about him as a possible Ireland captain in the future. I'm sure he'll captain West Ham. I wouldn't be surprised if he captains England if he plays for them. And, I think was something that tells you a lot about him at such a young age. Remember, the first game he was picked in midfield was against Liverpool. And he was taken off at half-time.
Yeah.
He was all at sea.
Scapegoated.
All at sea, yeah. But he did struggle. But Manuel Pellegrini deserves credit for this as well. He put him back in. He benched him for a couple of games, put him back in central midfield. And he's thrived in a lot of games since then. So, you mentioned before the break, I think, about looking forward what we'd like from Ireland in 2019. The only thing I'd like is Declan Rice.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the bigger picture. Like, qualifying for Euro 2020 is a short-term thing. But if you look in the next 10, 12 years, I think we really need somebody like him. It
could be such a game changer as well, because the Irish team has become associated with playing bad football basically for the last two managers, an anti-football style that, like, with the implication being that we don't have the players to actually play it, and in order to get results, the best thing we can do is make it a non-game like we did in Cardiff and hope for the best, like hope for a mistake from Ashley Williams or whatever. And if Rice came in as he would be our best midfielder probably since Roy Keane. We've really not had any notable powerhouse midfielder since Roy Keane, and his ability to keep the ball and just to drive that team and have a philosophy of youth, as well as, like, just a proper kind of attitude towards playing football. What a difference that would make. And just reading John Fallon's article, he said it appears he's veering towards a switch to his homeland of England, but the FAI remain confident. England manager is believed to be, Gareth Southgate is believed to be increasingly hopeful. So this is very, very disappointing, because only a week ago it did seem that he was making the change, and I just think it would be a massive lift at a time when football is struggling in this country against, like, rugby's almost taken over in terms of the hearts and minds of the people. And a lot of people, if you talk to people now, they'll just be giving out about the Irish football team because they're worn down by how mediocre we've become. And I just hope Mick McCarthy I think he needs to play the card of you can be an Irish legend, whereas if he plays for England, he'll be good, but he might just be a slightly more of another player.
Maybe he just missed Colton Sunday last Sunday, because that was when Mick McCarthy really did play that card, and he was like, this guy, he's got 100 caps right there before he's even made his competitive debut. It's interesting that you mentioned him in terms of Roy Keane, because obviously Paul Robinson described him as John Stones in terms of a ball-playing centre-back. It's very different how we view him over here to how he's viewed over there, that obviously they still see him as a great, great player, but if John Stones was Irish, would he be a central midfielder for us? I wonder that we kind of need him in a more prominent position, if I can use that phrase about a central midfielder as opposed to a centre-back. That it seemed that it was done and dusted, that he was going to be a midfielder, and now over the last week, there's a lot of people saying, he'd be much better as a centre-half. Yeah, well,
you wouldn't remember this, Owen, before your time, but Paul McGrath played a lot of games in centre midfield for Ireland.
Very well.
Yeah, but because it needs must. Like, Ireland needed him in centre midfield, and he had Mick McCarthy and Kevin Moore, and so Jack Charlton and David O'Leary when he was in favour was part of the mix there. But there was often the case of even the Charlton era where there was a lot of options, that square pegs were being pushed into maybe round holes. Like Ronnie Whelan was playing right back, Paul McGrath was in centre midfield, Mark Lawrence in centre midfield quite a lot as well. That we just, because midfield is so important, and Ireland were lacking there, that some of the better ball playing centre halves were pushed in there. That could be a similar situation with Rice.
I think as well as that, we're not too badly off defensively. Like we're okay. Duffy
I have quite a good defence.
Yeah, we're not. We don't really need Declan Rice as a back. But I asked Gary Breen last Saturday to name 4 players, I think, who have underperformed for Ireland, and the 4 players he named were all midfielders.
Yeah,
we just haven't. Like Hendrick has.
Who were the 4 players?
So it was Hendrick, Arthur.
James McCarthy, probably?
It was Brady, I think, and I can't remember the 4th one. Possibly, it was McCarthy, actually. In fairness to McCarthy, he's had so many injuries and probably hasn't really been suited maybe by the style of play we have. And he's not out of the picture yet, but you'd have to say he has the squiggle because he's nearly always injured. Declan Rice, we'll probably be playing 3 in midfield, and the holding midfield role we mentioned Fernandinho is a massively important position. And it's kind of where the action happens now, because all teams are basically flooding midfield now, and more play is going through the middle. The conventional winger is becoming a thing of the past. So basically, Rice will become the complete pivot of our team, and you know, Duffy could become a real leader at the back behind him. I've no issue with him playing central midfield. I think that's the position that, if he really wants to be a world-class holding midfielder, he has all the talents to be that. Whether or not it'll be an Ireland jersey, I don't know.
I wonder, just, you mentioned that, the opportunity of playing central midfield. If you take this to kind of an absurd end point where he starts playing for England and he starts playing at centre back and he starts playing very well, or he's a bit part player, he's back up to John Stones and whoever else.
Yeah.
And, you know, it takes him a couple of years to become one of the 3 lines and all that sort of thing. Whereas with Ireland, you know, he's at international level, he's becoming this top class midfielder, and suddenly at club level people are looking at him saying, well, you're a top class midfielder now. Midfielders tend to go for bigger money, and this whole idea of the commercial responsibility of being an England player as opposed to an Ireland player has been completely overblown, I think, over the past couple of months. That maybe he could flip it on its head entirely. That we give
interesting agenda you're setting there.
Yeah, I think he could get into.
I'm desperate.
Yeah, I think he could get into the England team, even the England midfield, quicker than a lot of people think. Because Eric Dyer has been their holding midfielder.
Yeah,
he's no superstar.
It's a good point.
Eric Dyer, you know.
We do want to go around the grounds to the half times. We want to stick with this for just a moment. We'd love to hear from you on Declan Rice and from on the Nathan Raven situation.
If people need one thing, it's more chat about Declan Rice.
Well, you know, it's a time of giving here on Off the Ball. Let's go to the Amex Stadium. It's half time between Brighton and Hove Albion and Everton. Richard Newman's been watching this.
Half time, Brighton and Hove Albion 0, Everton 0. The hosts dominated the first 25 minutes or so of this game, and Pascal Gross tested visiting goalkeeper Jordan Pickford, who had to be alert to palm the ball away. Jurgen Locadia also went close, but it's Everton who've had the better chances. Richarlison forcing a decent save from Brighton's David Button, making his Premier League debut. Seamus Coleman's follow-up was blocked, but that's after Button almost gifted the Merseysiders a goal when he dropped a routine cross, the loose ball not turned in. Everton finished a half stronger, but it's 0-0 at the break.
Let's go to Craven Cottage. It is Fulham against Huddersfield, and it is half time. Here's Nigel Bidmead.
Fulham 0, Huddersfield 0. Tense, nervous, and enough to give you a headache between these two relegation-threatened sides. Only 2 moments worth talking about in the 9th minute. Philip Billing for Huddersfield having a shot that was spilled by the goalkeeper, and then on 31, Dennis Odoye, a through ball for Kenny, but it was overhit and Kenny couldn't collect. Fulham 0, Huddersfield 0.
In Leicester, it is Leicester against Cardiff. Derek Clark's been watching this. It's half time.
Half-time, Leicester 0, Cardiff 0, and what's been a pretty scrappy first 45. Greg Cunningham almost put into his own net after 5 minutes. James Maddison has forced Neil Etheridge into 2 good stops from a long-range drive and a curling free kick, and the Bluebirds stopper has also denied a left-footed effort from Ricardo, and he did well to stop a Jamie Vardy chance when rushing through on goal. The visitors have worked hard, but they're yet to really test Kasper Schmeichel in the Foxes' goal. Half-time, Leicester 0, Cardiff 0.
Let's go to Wembley. It's been Spurs against Wolves, 45 minutes gone. Here's Guy Swindles.
Spurs 1, Wolves 0. A goal of sheer quality from Harry Kane, giving the home side the lead. It really was a wonderful effort. The ball broke to him wide out on the right. He was surrounded by Wolves players, cut inside one of them, and then curled a delicious shot into the far corner. Nothing that Patricio could do. He had earlier kept his side in it with a fine save from Eriksson. Hasn't all been one-way traffic though. Wolves have had their moments, plenty of corners, bit of pressure, but the Spurs quality at the moment is telling. Spurs 1, Wolves 0.
And finally for now, Andrew Shields got the half-time report from Vicarage Road. It's Watford against Newcastle.
Watford 0, Newcastle 1. Salomon Rondon's classic far post header from Richie's classy curling left wing cross. A fine goal on the half-hour mark. Up to then, Watford had looked the more likely scorers. Deo Lefeo had been denied one-on-one with the keeper. Good save from Dubravka. And right on half-time, Lascelles, Newcastle's defender, with a last-ditch tackle thwarted Isaac's success. Newcastle, having started slowly, finished the half strongly. Rondon in particular looks a hungry beast today. Watford 0, Newcastle 1.
And briefly then, a few GAA results. In the Dr. McKenna Cup, Monaghan have beaten Antrim and Clones on a scoreline of 120 to 112, while in the Bournemouth O'Byrne Cup it's finished 11 points apiece between Westmeath and Offaly. Wicklow going down 117 to 19 against Louth at Bray Emmets this afternoon. And then in the hurling, the Munster Senior Hurling League, we've got a result from Cusack Park where it's finished Clare 120, Cork 21 points. We've got a text in from Babs in Cork saying, have to turn off your channel if you don't stop knocking Liverpool, lads. So we'll have to rectify that in the next hour.
I don't think we were knocking Liverpool, to be fair. I've said for the last maybe 6 months I think they'll win the league this season. Maybe wavered a little bit, but I still believe.
Yeah, any little bit of wavering is a knocking to Liverpool fans. We did want to mention Nathan Redmond very briefly because this was the report this week. People might have missed it. They might have been. I think it was Stephen's Day. The report came out that Mick McCarthy might be making an approach to get Nathan Redmond to play for Ireland. Kind of coincides beautifully with his best form in a long time in a club jersey. What's your take on this? Gary Breen wasn't so happy about this idea the other day and off the ball.
Yeah, to be honest, a few years ago I would have agreed with Gary. That if you looked at people who grew up with Gary's upbringing or Kevin Caban's upbringing, they had a very strong Irish identity, even though they were born and bred in the UK, and they'd always their affiliation was always towards Ireland, and they never had any time for people who saw us declaring for Ireland for mercenary reasons or careerist reasons. But I don't know. I look around the sporting world and the football world now, and you look at the way, Diego Costa, who's Brazilian and played for Brazil, now plays for Spain. You look at Italy when they won the World Cup, how they naturalized players, how Portugal have done it, how Germany have done it, how the major powers have done it. And how Irish, the residency rule in rugby here, you see how you get players like Bundy Aki and CJ Stander. And it's professional sport. We get caught up in maybe nationalism or patriotism and think, that it should be a higher ideal, but you have to be hard-nosed about it.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. And the rugby kind of, the way that you can kind of just become Irish after whatever, what is it, you live here for a few years?
Formerly 3 years, now it's going to be 5.
Like, in fairness to the guys that he's actually trying to bring in, like they're proper Irish blood, like they are, and I couldn't give a damn if it is deemed to be a switch from one to the other. And I wonder what his relationship with Obafemi is like. Could that be a player there in terms of Obafemi is going to become a big player for us, I would say, potentially, because we don't have any strikers, and he's shining as a young player who's actually scored at Premier League level. Could Obafemi be a conduit for that? I'd have no issue with it, and the more players we can get, the better.
Yeah, just on Obafemi, like we always have to be cautious about talents of that age, Kieran, because we've seen so many of them kind of shine so brightly at such a young age and then fade away.
Yeah, that's funny because
no, he's going to be brilliant forever, evermore.
Well,
I forgot that is fact.
I wrote down a list here because this was actually in my mind earlier, because Obafemi, he's the youngest player to score, Irish player to score the Premier League since Andy Turner in 1992 for Spurs. But and he's a prodigy, like 18 years old, and people are getting excited about him. People are getting excited about Troy Parrott, who's only 16.
Was rumoured to be nearly in the squad today.
He was rumoured to be on the bench today, yeah. But I was just thinking about this. The players, if you were going back 10, 12 years ago and asked somebody to predict, say, the Ireland team of the decade to come, or the players that would be to the fore around now, names like Anthony Stokes, we mentioned, Conor Clifford, Darren Gibson, Stephen Ireland, Sean Scannell, Jack Byrne, John Paul Kelly, John Joe Toole, Jack Grealish, Terry Dixon. For various reasons, none of them are even near the squad.
You've almost the entire paper covered in names of fallen glories.
Yeah,
there.
But even go back further than that, a bit further. Michael Reddy was, talked up a lot. Tony Sheridan, Sean Thornton, Mark Kelly, Kieran Brady. That for some reason, Ireland rarely get the prodigies through. That very often it's lifestyle issues, it's various issues like Stephen Ireland. It's just Stephen Ireland, so that's why he fell by the wayside. But
I still think as well, Kieran, a lot of them were not suited by the English game. Like really, you know, just the hustle and bustle and the rough. You mentioned Tony Sheridan there. Like, what a gifted player, and he played for Shelbourne.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
But for some reason, but he played for Coventry in the Premier League when he was 18, 19. But I think part of the
Owen
reason,
Garvin, these guys went over there, and all the talent in the world.
Yeah.
But I do think lower level English football, obviously it's getting better, but I don't think it suited a lot of Irish players, and I think our colonial relationship with England hasn't necessarily served us all that well in the sense of our players developing as footballers.
Yeah. A lot of these did go to top flight clubs, and no, it didn't work out when they came back. But there's an interesting pattern when you look at the guys who have played regularly for Ireland. Often they went to a bigger club, like Glenn Whelan going to Manchester City, for example. Didn't work out for them, went down the divisions, worked their way through through a few lower division clubs, often went on quite a few loan moves and ended back in the top flight. And you go through so many of them there, like Darren Randolph, similar pattern, John Walters, like that is the way. And they end up making their debut for Ireland in their mid to late 20s. That for some reason those are the guys we tend to have that are a bit seasoned, a bit mature, who've come up the hard way. That these guys who are seen, their names are up in lights at their teens or early 20s, they rarely come through for us. That's why I wouldn't be saying there's any guarantee with a Troy Parrott or a Michael Obafemi. I hope they have the potential, but you just don't know.
I'm really looking forward to seeing Parrott play because he from the few clips I've seen him, he seems to have a real attacking dynamism that we don't associate with Irish football anymore. And this, I would reiterate this again, this is a big chance for Mick McCarthy to change how Irish football is viewed around the world, because anyone who's seen Irish football over the last 8-10 years will associate the game here with basically anti-football and stuff that has become absolutely horrible to watch. That's not in our DNA. We don't need to be like that.
No, for sure. We are going to take a quick break, but before that, just to read out some of your comments, because as always, Declan Rice brings up quite a reaction. How long is this going to go on for with Declan Rice? Will he, won't he? Don't understand why he can't make up his mind and move on whichever team he picks, says Chris.
He does need to make up his mind. I mean, it's time enough now at this stage. He's signed his contract. Let's get on with it.
Well, if he's to play for England against the Czech Republic in March, he needs to start
the process now.
He has international transfer this week, so there could be something happening very quickly.
And Mick was saying that his deadline for Declan Rice is March. So
but I think that's a movable deadline. I think he'll wait as long as it takes, basically.
Playing for England can ruin your life. The tabloids going through your bins, and one mistake making you public enemy number one. Play half a dozen decent games for Ireland or one important goal and you're a national hero who never has to open your wallet in any Dublin pub. I think it's an easy sell for Ireland. And you know what, anonymous texter, I totally agree with you.
In any Dublin pub.
Any Dublin pub. Except for maybe, the 750 pints in Temple Bar. We wouldn't go that far, but maybe enough important goals and you'll get to that stage. The second halves in the Premier Leagues are just about to get underway. There's only been a couple of goals. Spurs 1, Wolves 0, and Newcastle United are 1-0 up at Watford. We'll take a quick break.
Join the conversation. Text us on 53106. Texts cost 30 cents.
You can watch Southampton versus Man City and Man United versus Bournemouth on Now TV for just €10. So what's stopping you? Going shopping again? You're already on first name basis with the sales assistant. A family party? Your Aunt Mary has seen you 4 times this week already. Don't let anything get in your way. To treat yourself to a Now TV Sky Sports Day Pass and watch the games that matter to you for just €10, search Now TV Football today. Content streamed via internet. Full terms at nowtv.com.
It's a uniquely Irish thing to put the word "the" in front of the word Christmas. It's also a uniquely Irish thing to follow the Christmas with First Fortnight. This year, First Fortnight will host Europe's Mental Health, Art and Culture Festival, and in partnership with organisations across Europe and throughout Ireland, will be challenging mental health stigma with a unique blend of arts events and cultural happenings. Join Professor Green, Emmett Kerwin, Stephanie Preissner, Brezzi, Kathy Davey and hundreds more from January 1st. And as soon as you have the Christmas sorted, log on to firstfortnight.ie and start 2019 with mental health as your first priority.
On Hanlon's Corner on the Old Cabra Road beside the new Lidl, there lies something old and something new. The something old is P.H. Ross, and the something new is their exquisite new bathroom and tile showroom. Discover the bathroom you've always dreamed of, or the bathroom you'd love to dream in. The P.H. Ross annual showroom sale is now on, with huge reductions across all bathrooms, tiles and accessories. Private consultations and installations can be arranged. That's the PH Ross Bathroom and Tile Sale, now on.
Christmas. It's such a special time of the year. Lazing on the sofa watching 14 hours of TV, eating selection boxes for breakfast. And the end of year sale at appliancedelivered.ie with up to 15% off TVs, 25% off washing machines, 25% off refrigeration, and up to 30% off dishwashers. You don't even have to get out of bed. Well, except for delivery. Quick, hide the selection boxes! The end of year sale, now on at appliancedelivered.ie.
Hi there. Here I am again at the 1933 Furniture Company in Navan. Well, you do have to get around to keep up with the latest styles and trends. And the 1933 Furniture Company is certainly worth the journey. Take their new range of Natuzzi sofas in soft Italian leather. Absolutely beautiful. From Parker Knoll and Neptune to Halo Living and more, you get real quality here at comfortable prices. The 1933 Furniture Company, Navan. Because good furniture is hard to find. Sale now on.
Planning a getaway in the new year? With rooms from €99 per night, including breakfast, the Cork International Hotel is the perfect choice for your pure Cork breakaway. Go on and treat yourself, and let us at the Cork International Hotel amaze you. Book now at corkinternationalhotel.com.
On 106 to 108 FM and at newstalk.com. This is News Talk.
Good evening, I'm Tina Gates. A young man's in serious condition in hospital after an assault in Lucan, West Dublin. It happened last night. Adrian Harmon reports.
This assault took place last night on Ballyowen Lane, close to Ballyowen Shopping Centre. A 20-year-old man suffered head injuries in the assault and was taken to hospital. He's being treated for injuries described as serious. Gardaí want to speak with anyone who noticed anything suspicious in the area between 11 p.m. and midnight. They're also appealing for drivers with dashcam footage from the scene of the attack to hand it in to a Garda station.
Mental health advocates are warning that early intervention is key for children who are dealing with a mental health issue. Director of Mental Health Reform, Dr. Sherry McDade, says it's very worrying to see HSC figures reveal that nearly 300 young people are waiting 12 months for their first appointment.
The reality is that the longer that a child waits, the more likely it is that their issue will become, more embedded and strain on the family as well. And it's really important to remember that for all of these children, there's a family surrounding them who are struggling and trying to support the child as well as they can.
The head of the British police force investigating drone sightings at Gatwick Airport says he's absolutely certain that drones were there. The comments come after investigators admitted they were looking into the possibility that there were no drones at all. Speaking on the BBC, Chief Constable of Sussex Police Giles York agreed the report that there may have been no drones at all added to chaos after the airport was forced to close just days before Christmas.
Certainly that was amplified at the time, but we have been able to corroborate 115 reports, 92 of them are from credible people that we've been able to confirm. Because sometimes you'll have been in an airport, so many people would have been in an airport. Being able to judge pairs of lights, moving into distance, whatever it is.
That's it for now. We'll have more in an hour.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to Des Kelly Interiors. January sale event now on in all departments.
Some mist or drizzle this evening with overnight lows of 8 to 11 degrees. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
You're very welcome back. It's Owen here with you until 6 o'clock and Off the Ball this evening. Kieran Cunningham and Johnny Ward with me in studio, and we're looking at the afternoon's Premier League action. Just the two goals to tell you about so far this afternoon. Spurs are 1-0 up at home to Wolves at the moment. Harry Kane with the goal there. And Newcastle United 1-0 up away to Watford as well at the moment. It's currently scoreless between Brighton and Hove Albion and Everton. It's 0-0 between Fulham and Huddersfield Town. And it's also scoreless between Leicester City and Cardiff City. Just a reminder, we're on the live stream on youtube.com/offtheball, facebook.com/offtheball, and you can watch us as well on Periscope via Twitter @offtheball as well. Just one quick text in here from Aaron, who says the point made about dropping down the leagues before breaking through is well made. It's also the reason why we need a functioning domestic league. It stands to reason that a player will develop with experience, and the young fellas going over at 16 don't get any experience. Many of the world's best players get a season or two of experience at a smaller club before breaking through, which is a good point. We do need to rethink the idea of this conveyor belt.
Yeah, well, I think that is changing, to be fair, and the FAI, in rather imposing this new kind of under 13, 15, 17s and 19s league in the League of Ireland, which wouldn't have gone down well with a lot of the nursery clubs, I think is going to work very well. Anyone who's seen Shamrock Rovers facility will see that something pretty big is happening there in terms of what they're doing at underage level. We've seen a young kid who I think doesn't turn 17 till February, Gavin Bazuna. He's signed for Manchester City for a lot of money, and I think that is the future. You know, the outstanding players will go, but there's a lot to be said for playing in the League of Ireland. And I've been following the League of Ireland for 20 years, and I don't care what anyone says, the level of technical ability now compared to what it was is completely different level. Anyone who comes over here from another country who plays in the League of Ireland, be it from England, be it from France, be it from wherever, they will attest to the quality of the football, and teams get the ball down on summer football pitches. And for young players coming through to be able to play at that level, the likes of Brandon Kavanagh at Shamrock Rovers, I think he could be an absolute star. It's a massive development for them. Whereas if they go over to England, it's grand playing underage and playing under 23 and all that, but nothing beats like playing against men and playing proper regular football. And I think I think the League of Ireland is going to be key to our progress as an international team as well.
Yeah, because there's a lot to be said for learning your trade, like whether it's in the League of Ireland or in lower divisions. And you can even see that with, say, Virgil van Dijk. Like the one thing that I think Liverpool fans don't like to think about is Virgil van Dijk's 27. Like, it's not like they've got a 23-year-old Virgil van Dijk they're going to have for the next 10 years. And people do ask questions, like, because they did scout him at a couple of his previous clubs and say, why did they move earlier? And sometimes players need a club, they need to spend a couple of years at a Southampton, at a Celtic, and in the Netherlands, like Van Dijk did, just to improve and get it. Like he's much better player now than he was 2 or 3 years ago, or 5 or 6 years ago. That maybe Liverpool got him at the perfect time. That he just wouldn't have been ready if they'd signed him 4 or 5 years ago. That you do need that growing to grow into yourself. And
I think as a centre back though, he should have quite a few years left, because the way he plays, he's probably in great shape. I think like he should be able to play well into his mid-20s at a very high level.
Well, he'll go to the end of Declan Rice's contract anyway.
Yeah, well, I would expect Liverpool to get 5 or 6 good years out of him. Like, that's taken 32, 33.
Yeah.
But you do look at the top 4 clubs. There are not many 33, 34-year-old centre-halves at top clubs. So, like, he could go on somewhere else.
Fernandinho's 34 in May, I think.
Yeah.
And how reliant City are on him. But
and Silva's, I think Silva's 33 or very short, 33 very shortly.
Yeah.
Just on that Fernandinho thing, because I wanted to bring that up at some point before 5 o'clock, so we may as well do it now. This whole idea of Fernandinho, that he's clearly been he's been the easiest thing we can point to as a reason why we've seen this downturn in City form. We also have to accept the freak nature of what's happened to City over the past couple of weeks. Like, Pep Guardiola is going to keep pointing to the idea that I think they've conceded their first goal from the first shot on target in whatever 3 of the last 4 games or something like that. Like, you look at some of the goals that they've conceded, like the Leicester goal the last day from Ricardo, the Townsend goal. They've been bizarre strikes. There is an element of misfortune about this whole Manchester City period where the wheels haven't necessarily come off with Fernandinho being out of the team. There's no question they are a weaker side without him, but I think the whole idea that he was the glue holding this entire thing together and now it's all fallen to pieces without him is just a little bit overplayed.
Because it wasn't just him. Like, if you look at the Palace game, they started without their first choice midfield, which would be De Bruyne, Fernandinho and Silva, wouldn't it? They're 3 of the best players in the Premier League.
They looked a lot worse for that.
Yeah, they're 3 of the best players in the Premier League. So even though they have a really strong squad and they've spent huge money, any team will miss players of that quality. So, but I think Fernandinho, even his rapid transitions, the way he can switch the play so quickly from defence to attack, the way he screens the defence, he's been a massive loss. But I think Silva's been equally as significant a loss. And also, I think it just... if you watch Leicester City went for them. In the second half, they pushed up the 2 full-backs and 2 of the midfielders played much further forward. And it's a high-risk game to play against City, because City can hit you so hard on the counter-attack. But it paid off for them, and they had a lot of chances other than the goals. So I think... too many teams are spooked by playing City and spooked by coming up against Guardiola, and they're beaten before they take the field. And Leicester went out with the attitude I think maybe it took them getting the equaliser or getting into the lead to they really believed they could win that game.
I think the point in Ederson is kind of valid as well. Like, you know, if you go back to the first Palace goal that Schlupp got outside the box, his positioning was so bad for that goal. I mean, you really shouldn't be scoring.
He got the near post.
It was kind of across the goal. Like it was a left-footed strike across goal. Before, obviously, Townsend's goal was utterly ridiculous, but he gave so much of an opening to him to actually shoot into that corner. And I was like, for a goalkeeper who has very little to do, you really have to be doing better in situations like that. He got nowhere near saving it, and it was a good strike. It wasn't a great strike though, and it was more towards the centre of the goal. So there are vulnerabilities there. Like I think a lot of teams will get an awful lot of hope from what's happened over the last week.
I wonder is the vulnerability number 9 for Manchester City. Like Barney Ronay was writing yesterday in kind of the build-up to Liverpool-Arsenal really as much as anything, saying that if you stick Aubameyang in that City team for the last 4 games, they probably end up winning all of them, albeit in a way that reflects little additional glory on the evolution of third season Pep ball, which there might be truth in that.
Yeah, but isn't that going back to the old thing that used to be thrown at Guardiola when he was at Barcelona as well, that there's no plan B? You know, that if you had plan B is to keep doing plan A, basically. So I read that piece. It was an interesting piece because it's just very interesting about Aubameyang.
Yeah.
About the way he operates, because I would say Unai Emery and his staff, you know, when he meets them and they go through GPS stats and they come to Aubameyang, they say there's no point. He doesn't do any running, he doesn't do any tackling, he doesn't track back, he hardly takes any shots, but the shots he takes generally go into the back of the net.
Yeah, he says he's a bit of a throwback to the idea of your number 9 being on the periphery, but when he's in the game, he does something good.
Yeah, and that's invaluable. And it was I was reading what Klopp had to say about him yesterday. And Klopp obviously managed him at Borussia Dortmund, and he rates him very highly, and I think he's a bit wary of him today. And it shows, it's good to see there is room for
laziness.
That you don't have to be like Firmino running the equivalent of 3 marathons in every game. Like there are players who can just kind of stroll around the place. But I think that's one of the reasons Ozil has become sidelined at Arsenal, because you can't have 2 of those.
He's not in the squad even today, is he?
Yeah.
No, he's not in the squad. That's an injury. An injury that he picked up in the game the other day, despite the fact that Unai Emery said he was taken off for tactical reasons the other day. So maybe he just forgot his English and he meant to actually say he's got a bad injury and that's why he's not in the squad. Like, that is the other interesting element of this Arsenal setup at the moment. And the same goes for Chelsea, where when you look at the Manchester United ability to creep up in those 2 sides over the next couple of weeks, there's just those seeds of doubt in both of those squads, where there is the Hazard situation at Chelsea, which could start to stir the pot in a very unpleasant way. And the same with Mesut Ozil with Arsenal, if they're allowed to continue at that club for a bit longer and things get worse.
And it's defensively as well, Arsenal. Like if Man United were playing Arsenal today, you'd be pretty confident Man United would give them a very big game, if not beat them, and because of what we know they now have become. And that battle for the Champions League spot is definitely not over. Arsenal do not have enough quality in that team to be confident that they can finish. And Ozil looks like when he's been playing well this season, he's looked very happy. Like, he's looked like a happier guy than he was under Wenger. But this stuff today it's quite unsettling.
It is, but it's interesting just kind of reminding ourselves of what happened in the build-up to the season. Like Adam Crafton of the Daily Mail, who covers Arsenal quite a bit, he was on Twitter yesterday reminding us of the Emery and Ozil situation, that back in the summer on the Singapore tour, Gazidis and Emery went above and beyond to shower Ozil with love. Gazidis made a speech at a club barbecue, Ozil was made captain. The hope was that he would reciprocate and devote himself to Emery's demands. It's a shame that Ozil has not done so, becoming a real mess. Now, this is from a journalist who knows a lot of good sources inside the club, that this is really, when you see these rumours about Mesut Ozil potentially not being entirely happy with the situation, it is real. Like, this is what's happening here, that things aren't well there. And you would have expected that the armband might have been a positive move. And we've seen something fairly similar with Jose Mourinho and Paul Pogba at Manchester United, which didn't go so well either with the whole armband situation. That it's hard to know who to blame here, but my initial instinct is that Ozil perhaps could have done a little bit more as captain of a football club.
Yeah, but you make a player captain because he's captain material. You don't make him captain to become a captain. That might improve him. And like that Pogba situation was almost like a smack of desperation. You know, you need a proper leader who you can look up to. Like, Ozil is one of the most flaky characters, obviously, in the Premier League. That's pretty obvious. His track record precedes him. But can you imagine something like that in the Liverpool squad? It just doesn't happen. They've so much, like even Sturridge, who could claim that he's been somewhat harshly treated in terms of not getting a lot of game time. Remember that goal against Chelsea when he came on? You don't hear any rumblings. It's just like, I don't think Klopp would stand for that. And if what that guy was saying is true. You could see Ozil being gone pretty soon, because Emery, you just can't have that in the dressing room.
No.
Yeah, but you never hear grumblings when things are
going well.
That's the thing. So.
And the big kind of irony when you look at the way Arsenal are performing at the moment in terms of characters in the dressing room is Jurgen Klopp coming out this week and saying Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain is back in training, and he's probably going to play before the end of the season, which is fantastic news from a Liverpool point of view. But Arsenal fans must be looking at that and thinking to themselves, God, how we could do with a player like Oxlade-Chamberlain coming back into the squad before the end of the year.
Yeah, but they weren't thinking that when he was at the club.
No.
Like that's the testament to Klopp and the coaching staff at Liverpool. Like when Liverpool signed him, I thought, like anytime I'd watched him, I thought, what did this guy bring to the table? And it was the same with his first couple of appearances for Liverpool. But after a few months of coaching, he made a huge difference to them, and he could be a difference maker this year. Like if they get him back, say for the last month of the season, it would be difficult to come back to full speed after Cruciate now to come into that stage of the season. But they have Chelsea at Anfield, but they've other than that, they're all games they would expect Liverpool to win.
So you expect them to have the title wrapped up by the end of March?
No, but I'm just saying that. But at that stage, to win the title, they probably would need to win their last 5 or 6 games. I would think that's what I mean. Like you look at City have to go to Old Trafford. Other than that, they've all their big away trips already done and dusted. So that stands to City. But somebody like Oxlade-Chamberlain coming in then could help, because injuries are going to become a factor.
You mentioned him as well, Kieran. Like Keita and Fabinho both started in the Wolves game. Fabinho played well, and like this is a player that so much was hoped for. Has really had a fairly Spartan appearances for Liverpool, but they have players coming in midfield, and I think that is going to be key, because it's going to be such a hectic roster for them in the Champions League as well. And Oxlade-Chamberlain, I think it's an indictment of Wenger, what you were saying there. Like it was just probably the culture at Arsenal was so septic at that stage that all of a sudden he's coached, as he says, like for 3 months, and he was a really good player last season.
Yeah, you do wonder if the Ozil situation is sort of the kind of remainder of the Wenger dynasty at Arsenal, where the culture was so deeply ingrained that Ozil can get away with stuff that he's still behaving in that manner, thinking that he can win Emery over. And performances like the one against Leicester City early in the season, perhaps he could have won him over, and that was his way of thinking. I guess we won't know, but it's not looking good from
they wouldn't cash in on him in January now. They wouldn't be tempted.
Well, I'm sure they would be. I'm sure the businessmen at the top brass, I'm sure Unai Emery himself, unless Ozil is very, very unlucky with injury, is probably thinking that at this point that he's not available for whatever the biggest game of this December period for Arsenal.
Yeah, because the Salah thing is interesting, because I saw Emery mentioned that he looked at Salah when he was at PSG. And I know I remember reading a piece with Klopp before, it was around Liverpool's transfer strategy actually, just with Michael Edwards and a few of the people involved in the recruitment side of it, that they were convinced Arsenal would come in for Salah when they were going from all the data they'd collected on him. They thought he was an ideal Arsenal player, and they were surprised when Arsenal didn't come in, that Wenger didn't make a move, and that the door was open for them. Which maybe is an indictment of the way Arsenal are, that things just got a bit sloppy the last few years. But then again, people didn't see it coming with Salah. They thought he was a decent player, but nobody thought he was at the level he's shown over the last 18 months.
Yeah, there's no question about that. We should go around the grounds, because there has been a goal at the Amex Stadium. It's Brighton versus Everton. Here's Richard Newman.
Brighton and Hove Albion 1, Everton 0. Jurgen Locadia has got the goal after a bit of a moment of confusion, really. Initially, it looked like Locadia's shot from close range had been ruled out for offside. The referee went to go and speak to the linesman. The ref then gave the goal to Brighton. It turns out from the replays that a corner from the right from Pascal Gross came off Andre Gomez into the box. Locadia was in offside position, but it came off the Everton player, so he was onside. Locadia's given Brighton the lead. They lead Everton by 1-0.
Let's go up to Craven Cottage. It is Fulham against Huddersfield. Here's Nigel Bidmead with the latest.
Fulham 0, Huddersfield 0, but the home side have just had a really good chance. It was a good move as well, ended with Vietto feeding Brian on the left, but the new man for Fulham could only direct his shot at the goalkeeper. Claudio Ranieri, the Fulham boss, has made 2 substitutes at half-time. Le Marchand and Camara are on for Huddersfield. Well, they're keeping their powder dry. Fulham 0, Huddersfield 0.
Let's see what's happening at Vicarage Road. It is Watford against Newcastle United. Here's Andrew Cheel.
Watford 0, Newcastle 1. Rondon's first half goal separates the sides. Newcastle have lost none of the impetus that they built up during that first period. If anything, their confidence has gone up a notch, and Watford are having to defend Partly that is because on several occasions Watford have just given the ball away cheaply, and Newcastle are snapping into tackles and interceptions. Watford, in an attempt to turn the game round, have made a double substitution. Doucouré and Deeney are now both on. Watford 0, Newcastle 1.
Around an hour played at Wembley, where it's Tottenham Hotspur against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Here's Guy Swindles with the latest.
Spurs 1, Wolves 0. Spurs still leading by that excellent Harry Kane strike in the 22nd minute. Second half has seen some pretty pleasing football from both sides between the penalty areas, but neither side has been able to find the killer final pass or killer final shot to really challenge either goalkeeper. At the moment, though, Spurs would prefer a second. Wolves certainly still in this match. It's Spurs 1, Wolves 0.
And finally for now, at the King Power Stadium, it's Leicester City against Cardiff City. Here's Derek Clark.
Leicester City 0, Cardiff City 0. It's been a very even second 45 in the opening stages of this one. The Foxes again had another opportunity just after half-time. Ricardo again with his left foot. A great strike it was too. Neil Etheridge again up to the task. Meanwhile, the Foxes have made their first substitution of the afternoon. Rashid Ghazal coming on for Mark Albrighton. It's Leicester 0, Cardiff 0.
It's also 0-0 between Birmingham City and Brentford in the Championship. It's also scoreless between Bolton Wanderers and Stoke City as well. Well, it's Bristol City 0, Rotherham United 0. There have been some goals. It's Hull City 2, and they're 2-0 up now actually at Leeds United, while Middlesbrough are 1-0 up at home to Ipswich Town. It's Millwall 1, Nottingham Forest 0, while it's 2-2 at the moment now after 62 minutes between Norwich City and Derby County. Preston North End are level at 1 apiece with Aston Villa, while it's scoreless between QPR and Reading, and it's also scoreless between Sheffield United and Blackburn Rovers. The latest from the Liberty Stadium is Swansea City 1, Wigan Athletic 2, and it's West Brom 0, Sheffield Wednesday 1. And in the Scottish Premiership, it's Dundee 0, St Johnstone 2. It's 1-1 between Hamilton Academical and Motherwell. 2-1 to Kilmarnock at home to St Mirren. Scoreless between Livingston and Aberdeen. Hibs versus Hearts is later on. That's in about an hour's time. And Rangers beat Celtic 1-0 earlier on, if you missed that. Diarmuid from Gweedore has been in touch to say Manchester City losses show they are beatable irrespective of Pep's defensive words. Also, great quote from the Jersey: vision without action is a dream, action without a vision is a nightmare.
Yeah,
it is a great quote.
I guess it is.
Does this? I guess it does maintain to Manchester City. Like, there is every chance that, you know, Manchester City are just like, screw this, and like absolutely kill everybody for the next month. And it's like, why were we so quick to write this team off? That being said, like, is anybody really writing them off, or is it more to do with the idea that this Liverpool team is like a defensive beast that we've never seen a Liverpool team become before, and it's just going to become impossible for Manchester City to catch them should they reach a point where they potentially beat Arsenal tonight and don't lose to Manchester City in a couple of days?
Well, by common consent, the two best Liverpool teams were 78-79, when they only conceded 16 goals, and 87-88, which was the team of John Barnes, Peter Beardsley, etc. And all the stats are way ahead at this stage of the season of those two seasons in terms of the points they've gathered, the amount of goals they conceded, etc. So that's why people are getting excited about Liverpool. Like, that's the two greatest teams in one of the most successful clubs of all time's history, and their numbers are better at this stage of the season now. Now you have to close the deal. Klopp is very much do the Jim Gavin route, going very much process oriented and pointing out there's only halfway through the season. And he's right. Like, so much can change so quickly. Like, it all could change this week. Like, from today to Thursday. You know, we could have a very different conversation if we were here next Saturday. So, but no, they've done everything asked for them so far, and I think they'll stay the pace. Whether they'll have enough points on the board, like Johnny mentioned earlier, like if they match what their points tally, what they've garnered so far, they end up 102. I can't see them matching that points tally because
that'd be very hard.
Yeah, because the pressure, you know, they've already, what they've done so far is unprecedented. So to get that again, particularly if they do progress in the Champions League, I think they'll give up on the FA Cup. I think they'll throw out a reserve team because there's bigger prizes at stake, and they mightn't get this kind of chance for a while. So
the Man City game is so big, and I think Liverpool go into that game with a lot of confidence, whereas Man City will feel a bit of a mental wobble going into it, knowing that Liverpool have kind of had the upper hand against them in the head-to-heads, and City are toast if they lose that game. Basically.
Yeah, and City's attitude is interesting because City, when they came to Anfield earlier this season, were really cautious and negative. like unusually so for a Guardiola team. And I think it was just they were haunted by the 3 defeats to Liverpool last season, and they played them with a certain amount of I don't know if fear is the right word, but definitely trepidation. But they have to be more proactive in the Etihad because they really have to win that game. But that could set it up for Liverpool in the counter-attack.
Absolutely.
That's the thing.
Absolutely. And Liverpool are so suited to how that game is going to pan out, because Liverpool are best when they're not a team that dominates the ball. They're just a team that breaks quickly and get it to the front three, and danger is inevitable because and you're looking at Man City at the moment. How are they going to cope with Salah? I would have serious questions about that. And Liverpool will go into that game feeling like 10 feet tall.
A couple of more texts in. Owen has been in touch to say Delph is also a weak link in the City side. And as for Arsenal, whatever happened to Santi Cazorla, who was their most consistent midfielder, he almost lost a leg. He had like a absolutely horrific run of injuries. He's back playing obviously at the moment, but I think it was kind of to be fair, Arsenal looked after him well in terms of contracts and all of that, but it was just the end of the road for him there. And somebody's picked you up on your rugby point, Johnny. In rugby, Ireland have 13 world-class players. They select 2 naturalised players, Stander and Aki, each year until the academies produce 15 world-class players. There is that. There is also the idea of we've just actually seen a goal here in the Premier League. Wolves have equalised. It's Bolly, I think, who's actually equalised for Wolves.
This will be classic after time, because I was about to say I've been kind of watching this game and Wolves actually do look like they might do something, so I didn't say it and now they have. But this is interesting. Spurs were.
I was thinking that too, Johnny.
They were sitting back though a lot, Kieran, and it was and this is an interesting result if it stays like this.
Absolutely.
It's
Loris,
it's a free header from a corner, really, where Willie Bolly goes up.
It's zonal defending.
He needs to have a stronger hand for that. No, he really does.
This is the problem with zonal defending. So they've basically sort of Spurs have a line of 6 players there. It's the advantage is with the attacker in the sense of the corner is going to be played to suit the player who's actually running to the ball, which is the Wolves player here, Bowley. Bowley is 6'5".
Yeah, is the height.
He's about 7 or 8 yards away from where the ball is intended to be put in, and he's going to then meet a standing Spurs defender who has no momentum whatsoever, and that was pretty poor. It was like all Bowley was not marked. All he had to do was basically meet the ball and get power into it and get it on target, and it was a goal.
Yeah, so that has really mixed it up at Wembley, where Spurs are level with Wolves at 1 apiece. That is the latest goal to bring you. Do you want to react to that point about international world-class players coming more from rugby?
Okay, the guys who clearly are not Irish but then end up being naturalised in the space of 3 winters or whatever it is, I have a bit of an issue with that. But I would point out nobody seems to care when they're cheering on Ireland against New Zealand and Bundy Aki is playing against Kiwis.
I would like to see where the Nathan Redmond debate is. If Nathan Redmond scores the goal that gets us qualified for Euro 2020.
Yeah, but here's the thing as well.
Who cares? He is Irish as well.
But here's the thing as well, lads. Like these guys, the guys that have been naturalised, the rugby players, they move here, they work here. A lot of them get married and raise families here, the kids in school. So they're putting down. So we're saying, okay, they're not fully Irish though, even though they're raising families here, putting down roots here, etc. And then there's other people who've never lived in Ireland, who've one grandparent. That's the only link to Ireland, and we're saying they're far more Irish. That's up for debate, I think.
It's an argument that nobody can win in the sense because nationality. You got to remember, nationalism is a very short thing in the history of the world. Like it's just we just happen to be wrapped up in it at the moment. There was no such thing as a lot of these countries 200 years ago.
We should start a nationalism podcast with Johnny Ward.
We should. Well, nationalism will.
Geopolitics.
Nationalism will be dead sooner than people think, but it won't be dead in our life.
Will it be dead before the planet is dead?
Will it be dead before Declan Rice commits for Ireland? That is the question.
Or before his contract for West Ham expires? Probably not, is the answer. I do want to briefly touch on Manchester United before we take an ad break, because you can listen to their game live here on Off the Ball tomorrow. They're up against Bournemouth. It's going to be Nathan and Brian Kerr on commentary duty for that one. One of the interesting comments that's been doing the rounds this week, it came from Phil Neville on Match of the Day during the week, was that a culture was being lost at Manchester United that seems to have been rediscovered by Solskjaer by playing Gomez the other day and seeing more kids through to the team. Is it fair to say that what Jose Mourinho did was destroy a culture at a football club?
I wouldn't say. Well, he played kids from the academy as well. Like Scott McTominay was because I think United are remarkable in that they had a run there. I think from the 1930s. I think maybe there was a game or two last year where they didn't, but it was the first time since the 1930s. they always had a player that came through the youth setup in the first team squad. And to do that for 80 years is just astonishing. I don't think any other club comes close. But there's been too much talk about the culture of United and the United way, etc. And I'm always sceptical about anybody whose surname is Neville or Beckham or Scholes or Butt, or because they're all in it. They're all this little self-styled class of '92, and I think they're playing a long game. I think they want. They see it as their club, and ultimately they want to take over that club. And I think it's interesting, Ferguson's influence in Solskjaer coming in. I think he wants the United way, as long as it's not anybody to do with the class of '92. That he doesn't want that United way, because I think he sees, I think he sees what they're at, basically. That. I don't know how they'd ever get what kind of planning they would ever have to get the finance together to buy the club, but it wouldn't surprise me if there's some long-term planning at play there,
And if their wages are comparable to what they're paying Salford at the level they're at the moment, players will be on about $1 billion a year. It's absolutely insane, the money they're putting in.
You look at what Solskjaer has done in whatever his week and a half there. Obviously, they were going to win those 2 games.
He's done very little.
He's done very little, exactly.
Yeah, he's done very little. What's happened was not Solskjaer being there. Mourinho was gone, and Pogba decided that he fancied it again.
Well, the thing is, I do wonder if, and I know this is complete hyperbole, I do wonder if in the space of a month or two, if this Manchester United thing with Solskjaer continues to go very well and everybody continues to have smiles on their face, and Paul Pogba is being given guidelines, as Solskjaer likes to call them. He's not being managed by Solskjaer, he's being guided by Solskjaer. If this will actually kind of transform the player-manager relationship for a while, because we've seen inklings of it in Real Madrid with what Zinedine Zidane managed to do in that dressing room, where the single biggest achievement he had was getting everybody on side, and we've seen what they did. They won 3 Champions Leagues in a row. So I do wonder if you go into a super club like this, managers just have to accept that player power wins.
You have to defer to player power.
Exactly. As a manager now, you can defer to coaches as well, who can be your bad cop. But your managers ultimately have to be, I don't want to use the term yes men, but ultimately they've got to bow down to the importance of someone like Paul Pogba at a super club like Manchester United.
Yeah, well,
I think that's very valid.
Not so much that you'd be yes men, the manager to be yes men, but I think managers can't. It's very hard for them to take the autocratic approach anymore.
Sure.
That's where Mourinho is falling short now. That
you can take the autocratic approach if they're your players.
Yeah.
But if you inherit players that basically weren't your players, that's not going to work, because they'll immediately turn off to that.
Yeah, but the Jurgen Klopp approach, the Mauricio Pochettino approach, now it's very much the arm around the shoulder thing. I know, when people are very quick to disparage Klopp hugging people all the time, but it seems to have an effect. It seem to be a unity there. And there's also they're very much within that Liverpool club, they're pushing them to do stuff in the community and be more involved with supporters and meeting supporters more. And they had lost track of that, Liverpool. Liverpool were very much from rooted in a working class area, but they've just been hoovering up all the houses around Anfield
in a very, very questionable,
in a very aggressive way, and they've rolled back on that. They've recognised that was a problem, and there are good people involved in there, like Tony Barrett, who used to write for the Times, involved a supporter liaison, and he's made the point that this stuff, the partially sighted fan that I don't know if you saw that video. He has a friend. He goes to the games, and the friend describes the action to him. And there was a clip that went viral of him describing Salah's goal against Napoli. But Liverpool arranged then, I think Tony Barrett was behind it, of a meeting all the players and stuff. And but Tony Barrett made the point that the players get as much out of that as the supporters. People forget that it does. It does.
You can imagine the lives that
it does
they
increase
live.
The connection to the club, because a lot of that Liverpool squad, they're from all over the world.
And you can imagine the lives you live as a professional footballer, millionaire, blah blah blah. You're not in touch with reality, and something like that. It probably it's life affirming that you can meet somebody who has obviously blindness and who was so touched by Salah's goal that it probably makes you feel, privileged to be where you are, but also in touch with reality as well. And I was at the Liverpool-Napoli game. The fans have a real connection there with the club. It's not like you go to some big games and there's no atmosphere. It's like they go along, they're spectators. The people of Liverpool, that there is a special something going on at the moment there, and you can really feel it. It's an unbelievable vibe to be at a game there at the moment.
But it's going to be interesting tonight now, the 5:30 game with Arsenal. If things go against them, like if Arsenal take the lead or something, how they react, because the atmosphere for the United game, like the first half an hour was probably as well as Liverpool played all season. Once Lingard scored, the noise level just dropped. Like, it was like the oxygen was sucked out of it. And I think that shows to me the pressure of that 29 years since winning the title.
Absolutely.
And this fear that they could blow it, that it's, that this
fear
is their chance. And that's when you need the club. They need that noise. That's when they need supporters. They need that noise for the whole game. And the players would recognise that, because they would hear this white noise in their ears, and then suddenly hear it go quiet, and it's like, that can get to you.
Yeah, of course it can. We are going to go over to Anfield in just a moment, but before all that, let's hear about that goal that has equalised things at Wembley. Here's Guy Swindles.
Spurs 1, Wolves 1. Wolves deservedly level. The goal coming from a corner taken by Coutinho, and climbing above everybody was Willy Boley to power a thumping header past Hugo Lloris. Nothing the Spurs keeper could do about it. It was a long spell of pressure from Wolves. Spurs 1, Wolves 1.
Let's go to the King Power Stadium, because there's been a penalty save. Here's Derek Clark.
Leicester City 0, Cardiff City 0, but Neil Etheridge, the Bluebirds goalkeeper, is the hero once again. He's just saved a James Maddison penalty. He won the penalty himself. He was brought down by Morrison. The up he stepped, right-footed, targeted the right-hand post, but there was Etheridge to hold it and tip the ball away. It's Leicester 0, Cardiff 0.
And then finally, before we go to Anfield, let's go to the Amex Stadium. There's an update here. It is Brighton and Hove Albion against Everton.
Brighton and Hove Albion 1, Everton 0. Marco Silva's thrown on Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Gylfi Sigurdsson in an attempt to force an equaliser, but the home side continue to look threatening and still lead through Jurgen Locardia's 59th minute goal, his second in as many games. The closest the visitors have come to levelling things, a shot from Richarlison, which was well saved by David Button onto the post. Albion's top scorer Glenn Murray's come on to replace the dangerous looking Florian Andone, who couldn't make the most of a ball played over the top by Lewis Dunk moments ago. Brighton still lead Everton by 1-0.
Richard Newman, your reporter there at the Amex Stadium. So it is Brighton and Hove Albion 1, Everton 0, Fulham 0, Huddersfield Town 0. It's also scoreless between Leicester City and Cardiff City. It's Spurs 1, Wolves 1, and Watford are trailing 1-0 at home to Newcastle United. But the big one tonight in terms of the title race, in terms of the top four as well, is at Anfield. Ollie Pimblett is there watching Liverpool versus Arsenal, or he will be watching Liverpool versus Arsenal a little bit later on. Before I go to you, Ollie, we've just had another massive goal at Wembley, because Wolves have gone 2-1 up against Tottenham Hotspur. We spent half the day here chatting about a potential 3-horse race in the Premier League. You do wonder if this might be the start of some sort of collapse for Spurs. It's obviously too early to say anything like that, but this is a bad result for Spurs if it happens to say like this, because they've been on such good form. 11 goals in their last 2 games, and Wolves with a beautiful move here, switching the ball from one wing to the other in basically a 2 versus 4 situation here, where Wolves had plenty men back, and they barely just get a shot through. And Hugo Lloris,
I don't think Lloris will be happy with that.
I would fault him in both goals. I'd fault him in the first goal as well, I have to say.
That's another thing when you talk about title challenges. That's not good goalkeeping. And Lloris, compared Lloris to Alisson, like his positioning is poor. He doesn't react very well.
Took a deflection, did it? Slight deflection there?
It took a slight
trickled into the net.
That's Raul Jimenez with the goal for Wolves. So 7 minutes to play there, and it is Spurs 1, Wolves 2. We'll bring you the story of that goal as soon as we can. Apologies, Ollie Pimblett over at Anfield. How are things?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad at all, thanks. So talk to us about the team news. Any surprises this evening?
Yeah, the team news is in, of course. Liverpool aiming to cap a fine end to 2018 with a victory over Arsenal here at Anfield, and that will extend their lead over the reigning Premier League champions to 9 points. And Jurgen Klopp makes just one change to the side that beat Newcastle 4-0, with Fabinho coming in for Henderson. So they go with Alisson in goal, a back four of Alexander-Arnold, Lovren, Van Dijk and Robertson. The 2 holding midfielders are Wijnaldum and Fabinho, and Shaqiri, Firmino, Mane and Salah form a formidable front 4. After a 22-game unbeaten run, Arsenal have really struggled in recent weeks and face a defensive injury crisis, with Bellerin, Mavropanos and Holding all out injured, and Unai Emery has to make 4 changes to his side that drew 1-1 with Brighton on Boxing Day. In come Ramsey, Maitland-Niles, Iwobi and Mustafi in place of Mesut Ozil, who is out through injury. He doesn't even make the bench. Lacazette drops to the bench, Guendouzi does also, as does Koscielny. So goes with Bernd Leno in goal, Lichtsteiner, Maitland-Niles, Socrates and Kolasinac. We think they're going with a midfield 4 of Torreira, Xhaka, Ramsey and Mustafi, and the front 2 of Aubameyang, the Premier League's leading scorer, and Iwobi.
Good stuff, Ollie. We'll chat to you later. Ollie Pindit there on the line from Anfield, bringing us the team news between Liverpool and Arsenal. The big news there, really, that has developed over the past 24 hours is that Mesut Ozil is not in the Arsenal squad whatsoever. They say it is down to injury. Trent Alexander-Arnold back in that Liverpool team. Wijnaldum, Fabinho sitting in front of the back 4 there at the moment, perhaps the big news. But also Shaqiri starting to nail down that position there on the right, because it seems that Salah's kind of got that number 9 role, Firmino in behind him, and then Mane on the left, Shaqiri on the right. You do wonder if that has suddenly become Liverpool's best attack at this point.
Yeah, and he's a player who just always looks like something's going to happen when he's on the ball. I really, really like him. I think Klopp's management of him, you remember he took him off earlier in the season, was it against, I think they won a game earlier on where they were like 3-0 up at half time and he was taken off, and you know, it was certainly questionable at the time, but Klopp managed the situation well, and I think he does give players individual treatment. And Shaqiri was a very shrewd boy. They didn't pay the world for him as well, and he's a proper player.
For sure, he could be bargain of the season. We've had another goal in the Premier League. It's come at Vicarage Road, where Watford are up against Newcastle United. Here's Andrew Cheal.
Watford 1, Newcastle United 1. Deulofeu set up the goal with a cross every bit as good as Matt Ritchie's for Newcastle in the first half, and Doucouré, who timed his run to perfection, absolutely banged the head into the back of the net. It's equal of Rondon's goal in the first half. It's Watford 1, Newcastle 1.
Another goal at Wembley. Wolves have gone 3-1 up against Tottenham Hotspur. Helder Costa with the goal at this point, breaking away from Spurs. Not much Hugo Lloris could do on this occasion after, I guess, being a small bit suspect for the first 2 goals. They conceded, they gave away the ball midway through the middle of the Wolves half, and Wolves can do this to a team. They can hit you on the break and you're in big trouble, and they've done it again. Costa
is a beautiful finish.
A little shove in the defender, but not really a foul, and just with the left boot swinging it around the body of Hugo Lloris, and it is Spurs 1, Wolves 3 after 87 minutes play there. So that is a big blow for the title aspirations of Tottenham Hotspur.
Do you know what the mad thing about that goal is, as we're watching back? This is 100% a right-footed shot, yet he positions his body around the ball because he wants to curl it with his left foot around the keeper. Beautiful piece of ingenuity.
Let's go to Craven Cottage, because we've had another penalty save here. Watching Fulham versus Huddersfield is Nigel Bidmead.
Fulham 0, Huddersfield 0, but the home side have had a penalty saved. It came on 82. Handball in the area. There was an argument between Mitrovic and Kamara. Kamara won the argument. Mitrovic gave him his blessing, but Jonas Losel in the Huddersfield goal pulled off a terrific save. 0-0.
So just to let you know the current state of affairs in the Premier League, it's Brighton 1, Everton 0, Fulham 0, Huddersfield Town 0, Leicester City 0, Cardiff City 0. Wolves have gone 3-1 up away to Spurs, and it's Watford 1, Newcastle United 1. The full times are starting to come in. We'll get to them next.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Boyle Sports. Now with same-day withdrawals to your Visa debit card.
Lunchtime Live.
The insurance companies, they used the collapse as an excuse when the insurance costs started going up massively over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
They were saying, because of the collapse of that company, we may have to pay it off. We have to get the money back. And now there's a cut that we're paying it off and we're going to get another levy. They're now going, it's the injury claims. We've got to bring the price up. The injury
I see what
claims.
you're saying.
It's like they're taking us for a ride.
So it's not the collapse, it's the compo culture.
Not at all.
It's all of that.
They're saying it is now.
Yeah.
So that's it's just another excuse. So when we sort out the compo culture, they'll say it's another excuse. They'll come up with something else and keep on putting up the price.
Lunchtime Live with Ciara Kelly.
Thanks to VideoDoc.
Weekdays from midday on News Talk.
Be safe when driving this winter. Make sure your vision is crystal clear at all times by defogging and de-icing when necessary. Always keep a screen scraper and de-icer at hand to keep your mirrors and windows clear. Motor tips, brought to you by Volkswagen Service. Book a service online at volkswagen.ie.
The Great Winter Sale is now on at Cube. There's up to 20% off our entire range of living and dining room furniture, and that's including just about the best Caligaris collection you'll find anywhere outside Italy. From design classics to the latest 2019 ranges, it's all in the sale. You'll find more great Cube discounts on sofas. Choose from specially selected stunning fabrics not available anywhere else. Luxury has never been so affordable. See us in-store at Balbriggan and Sandyford or visit cubekitchens.ie.
Bring on the sun, bring on the sea and sand, bring on sandcastles, buckets, spades and beach balls. Bring on the days by the pool and summer nights in the city. Bring on the dribbly ice creams and the sunny sidewalks. Bring on 4-star service and convenient central airports. Bring on the sun in the Aer Lingus January sale with 3 million seats on offer. Up to 50% off flights to Europe and flights to North America from €189 each way as part of a return trip. Smart books now at aerlingus.com. Offer subject to conditions and availability.
Discover the QLED Q6 range from Samsung. The much sought after Q6 range of QLED televisions offer pure colour across the whole spectrum. For more information and a full demonstration, call to Power City today.
Leia Healthcare are for the tumbles, jumps and bumps in life. That's why we're recording this ad was
Thanks to saving over €340 on my health insurance. I'm saving over €340 on mine.
Where Mum pays for mine with Flex 125 Explore from Leia Healthcare. Because when you pay for one of your kids' or teens' health insurance, the rest goes free. Oh, it's good to live. Leia Healthcare, looking after you always.
Insurance provided by Ellipse Insurance Limited, trading as Leia Healthcare. Leia Healthcare Limited, trading as Leia Healthcare and Leia Life is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. A kid or teen is defined as a dependent aged under 18. Savings based on one free kid or teen. Offer available from December 15th, 2018.
Feeling panicky? Experiencing regular night sweats? Find yourself picturing the inside of your fridge? You could be suffering FOMO, fear of missing out on milk. It can affect anyone, at any time, leading to bouts of dry breakfast cereal, tasteless tea and bitter black coffee.
Overcome FOMO with mymilkman.ie and never miss out on milk again. Sign up online and wake up to fresh Avonmore milk delivered by your local milkman. mymilkman.ie. Fresh milk is just a click away.
FOMO symptoms also include checking shop closing times and mild swearing.
At Centra, we have all you need to celebrate the new year. Like Centra's strip loin steak 2-pack was €8, now €6. Centra's selected party food range, 2 for €6 or €4 each. And our star offer until Monday, Champagne Pierre Darcy's Brut, was €20, now €15. Centra, live every day. Enjoy calls sensibly.
Football on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Boyle Sports. Now with same-day withdrawals to your Visa debit card.
You're very welcome back. Let's go straight to Craven College because there's been a goal there. It's Fulham against Huddersfield. Here's Nigel Bidmead.
Fulham 1, Huddersfield 0. A stoppage time goal from Alexander Mitrovic. It came on the break. Sessegnon's second half substitute took the ball on. It was 3 against 2. Sessegnon picked his moment, picked his pass, found Mitrovic, and he nutmegged the goalkeeper. Fulham 1, Huddersfield 0.
Needless to say, that's an absolutely ginormous result for Fulham today, but just looking at their form before today, they had drawn they hadn't been beaten in the last 2 games for only the second time this season. So this is the first time they've gone on a 3-game unbeaten run, assuming that stays the way it is and Huddersfield don't completely turn it around. And you get the sense that for all the criticism you can throw of Claudio Ranieri, he is that sort of manager who might just grind out a bizarre relegation survival. And you talk about the very factors that get you those strange relegation survivals, and someone like Alexander Mitrovic is the exact sort of striker that can help you do that, like Defoe for Sunderland a few years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
I think they've probably just immediately warmed to him, and just like he was that breath of fresh air they needed. This is a massive result. Like, you'd really have to fear for Huddersfield. Even in these games, they're just not scoring goals.
No.
Yeah, I'd love to see him do it because he's just
so likeable.
He's such that's the word. He's such a likeable character and just an old school gentleman. Just a lovely man. It'd be great if he kept him up.
We have had another goal. It's at the King Power Stadium. It's Leicester City against Cardiff City. Here's Derek Clark.
Leicester City 0, Cardiff City 1, and it's Victor Camarasa in stoppage time with an absolute peach of a goal from just outside the area. He was given the ball by Bobby Reid, the substitute, and from around 20 to 25 yards he curled a delicious right-footed drive into the top corner, giving Schmeichel no chance. Leicester 0, Cardiff 1.
Just before we get to the full times from the Premier League, just to bring you up to speed on what's happening in the Championship. It's currently scoreless between Birmingham City and Brentford, and scoreless between Bolton Wanderers and Stoke City. Bristol City have gone 1-0 up against Rotherham United, while Leeds United are going to lose. They're 2-0 down at home to Hull City in the 94th minute. Middlesbrough are 2-0 up at home to Ipswich Town. Millwall 1-0 up at home to Nottingham Forest. It's Norwich City 3, Derby County 2, Preston North End 1, Aston Villa 1. It's scoreless between QPR and Reading, while Sheffield United are beating Blackburn Rovers 3-0. Swansea City 2, Wigan Athletic 2 is latest there in injury time, while West Bromwich Albion are trailing Sheffield United 1-0 at home. Remember, you can tweet us at Off the Ball if you want to get in touch. If you've got any comments for the lads before you wrap up this evening, you can text us as well using the text number 53106. And we're just watching on our screens right now as Nuno Espirito Santo and Maurizio Pochettino embrace because Tottenham Hotspur have been beaten at home 3-1. We did not see that coming, and by all accounts, richly deserved result for Wolves. And they did something relatively similar to Manchester City early in the season, where they come up against a team in fairly good form, in blistering form, in fact, and managed to just find a way of annoying them enough to get a point out of them. But on this occasion, they got 3.
It says a lot for Liverpool. Sorry, that Liverpool were so comfortable in Wolverhampton. They were so comfortable. They never really looked extended, and Wolves they've gotten some really good results against Man United. They should have won the game. Obviously, Man City, and they're a talented side.
They're the best promoted team we've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, one of the best financed.
One of the best. They've been very well financed, but even when you look at their conditioning, like there's so many big, powerfully built players. And very skillful players as well. Like I'd be actually very interested to see Wolves next season when they have another couple of transfer windows, when they have this season under their belt.
Jose Mourinho as manager.
Yeah.
Keep the Portuguese team going.
But because I think they can kick on. I think they have a lot going for them now.
Yeah, they certainly do. I think there is a real case to be made that when it comes to the promoted teams in the Premier League era, Wolves are right up there as the best. Like Joe Hart said as much after they played Burnley after about 6 or 7 games into the season. And the most impressive part, obviously, and I know it's almost a cliche about them at this point, is that slump that they went through. It was almost looking like the Hull City Phil Brownie era when they just collapsed mid-season. Bizarrely. After Giovanni had single-handedly brought them up to like 6th in the table. But this isn't going to happen with this team. They're far, far better than that.
No, because you did hear it last season. Like a lot of people were saying that it was they were the best team in the Championship that people could remember seeing in the Championship, that they're very high level, because you do see like the likes of Newcastle United and a lot of others. They basically have Championship squads in the Premier League, but Wolves had a Premier League squad in the Championship, and now they've strengthened again, so they're a decent outfit.
Yeah, they certainly are. So the full times are starting to roll in. We're going to start by going to Craven Cottage, where we had a relegation 6-pointer. It was Fulham against Huddersfield. Here is Nigel Bidmead.
Fulham 1, Huddersfield 0. Alexandra Mitrovic with the goal in stoppage time. Sessegnon led a Fulham breakaway, waited for his moment, fed Mitrovic, who nutmegged the goalkeeper for his 8th goal of the season. That came just a few minutes after Fulham had a penalty save. Mitrovic and Camara in an argument. Camara won it, and then Lossell saved his penalty. Fulham 1, Huddersfield 0.
Full time at the Amex as well. It was Brighton against Everton. Here's Richard Newman.
Full time, Brighton and Hove Albion 1, Everton 0. A first win in 5 games for Chris Hughton's side, and partly a result of some smart refereeing. Jurgen Locadia with the vital goal, his second in as many matches. Initially looked to be ruled out, but after consultation between ref and linesman, the goal was given. Locadia was in an offside position. The replay showed the ball came off an Everton player. That was fine reward for Albion, who had a lightning quick start to second half. But Everton twice hit the woodwork, with Charlison's effort touched onto the post by David Button, and Kurt Zouma's header hitting the crossbar. Brighton held on, beating Everton by a 1-0.
Let's go to Vicarage Road, where Watford were taking on Newcastle United. Here's Andrew Cheal with your full-time.
For almost an hour, Newcastle looked on course for a fine away win. Rondon's classic far post header from Richie's beautiful cross put them ahead. Rondon then led the line in the way a good centre-forward really should. His hold-up play was exemplary. But 10 minutes from time, Deo Lefeo's cross from the right was the equal of Richie's in the first half, and substitute Doucouré with a perfectly timed run buried a powerful header. Overall, a fair result. Watford 1, Newcastle 1.
And to Wembley, where Guy Swindles has been watching Spurs lose to Wolves.
Spurs 1, Wolverhampton Wanderers 3. What a result this could be in the scheme of things later on in the season. Spurs, well, they took the lead in the first half. Fabulous goal from Harry Kane on the day that he was awarded an MBE, and everything seemed to be looking to be going well. But Wolves changed the tactics in the second half, went to 3 at the back, and suddenly started scoring. Bowley equalised. Jimenez gave them the lead with 7 minutes to go, and when Helder Costa tucked home, that was job done. Spurs 1, Wolves 3.
That's interesting. That's the second sort of tactical change we've seen in a week that's worked out against one of the big teams. Obviously Club Puel doing it with Leicester, and
it's interesting.
Now Wolves doing that against Spurs.
But the Leicester one is interesting too. Leicester beating Chelsea and City in back-to-back games and then losing at home to Cardiff.
Yeah,
that's like for supporters that you'd be tearing your hair out.
Well, it's what we were talking about earlier on with Alan Tolley, who was doing our preview earlier on in the show, speaking about the idea that Cardiff City, there was always a chance that they'd cause them more problems in a weird way than Chelsea or Manchester City would, because it seems that Leicester have sort of retracted into this way that they were under Claudio Ranieri, where the less possession they have, the more chance they have of winning games. I know it's not actually as simple as that.
Fair play to Cardiff. Like, that's Cardiff 4 points off 18th. They're 4 points in the green at the moment. I think pretty much everyone said they get relegated, and you know, he may not be everyone's cup of tea, Neil Warnock, but like, that's a fair achievement to be like ahead of clubs that you would have probably expected to be ahead of them, and they have a chance.
But not only is he not everybody's cup of tea, he gets unfairly dismissed by everybody as well. I mean, keeping that Cardiff City team up, you would have said after 4 or 5 games of the season would be an impossible task. They had a dreadful start to the year, and it looked like they had a squad with a bunch of nobodies who were not going to be able to survive in the Premier League. You got to give Warnock a lot of credit for that, whether you like him or not.
He's been pretty honest as well after games. You know, if they've gotten a thumping, he said they've gotten thumped. But even against good teams, they're very well set up. Like, they don't give an awful lot away. And to recover from the Man United game, you know, I think teams of that ilk, they need to be able to rebound quickly from losing to good teams, because they'll know that likely they're not going to get anything out of this game, but they have a chance. They really have a chance. Like, Huddersfield look absolutely toast. Burnley are obviously in big trouble. I wouldn't completely buy into Southampton staying up, even though they have obviously improved since Hughes left. But Cardiff have a chance, and you know, it's going to be interesting down there.
Well, we can actually go to the King Power Stadium and hear the full-time report between Leicester and Cardiff. Here's Derek Clark.
Full-time Leicester City 0, Cardiff City 1, and a wonder strike in stoppage time from Victor Camarasa sees the Bluebirds snatch the 3 points here. The goal was straight from the top drawer, the Spaniard picking up the ball from about 25 yards out before finding the top corner of the net. Neil Etheridge had been the hero up to that point. He saved a James Maddison penalty kick, as well as saving a number of shots in the first half. It's finished here at the King Power. Leicester 0, Cardiff City 1.
And the other scores this afternoon were Fulham 1, Huddersfield Town 0, Brighton and Hove Albion 1, Everton 0, Spurs 1, Wolves 3, Watford 1, Newcastle United 1, and it's Liverpool against Arsenal at 5:30. Kieran Cunningham and Johnny Ward, thanks a million for your company this afternoon. I enjoyed that. You'll be on again next Saturday, I presume, at some point or another.
Yeah, looking forward to the Liverpool game now. It's going to be interesting. I think there are going to be goals. I think Liverpool will hit them for at least 3.
3-2, 3-1?
I'm going to say 4-1.
Kieran?
2-0 to Liverpool.
2-0.
You've heard it here first. We'll bring you up to speed on everything that happens there. It kicks off in around half an hour. We're going to take a quick break.
Get up-to-the-minute news updates at newstalk.com and on the Newstalk app.
Hi there. Here I am again at the 1933 Furniture Company in Navan. Well, you do have to get around to keep up with the latest styles and trends. And the 1933 Furniture Company is certainly worth the journey. Take their new range of Natuzzi sofas in soft Italian leather. Absolutely beautiful. From Parker Knoll and Neptune to Halo Living and more.